All right,
have one.
good, 7 o'clock, good evening, October 2nd, 2013, Finance Committee. Minutes first, August 16th minutes,
Move.
Second.
discussion, all in favor,
Yay.
opposed? August 21st minutes,
Move. Second.
all in favor, opposed? Thank you. All right, before we start, what I'd like to do is ask Aldo to spend about 5 minutes bringing us up to speed on where the school is, what they submitted to MSBA, and what the number they submitted to MSBA is, which will lay a groundwork for the rest of the evening, I think.
Well, Mr. Chairman, the number submitted to MSBA went in actually about 4 weeks ago. The number was $60 million, was the estimated cost for construction of the new building. Now, what that number includes is the best-case scenario at this point. We haven't done any value engineering, we don't have any schematic design, it's just a best guess at this point in time. This morning at MSBA, this was a critical point for us to move forward. They approved our project with the idea, when all of our project meetings, we've indicated to MSBA that the town was willing to move forward on the construction of this project through the levy limit and not looking towards any kind of an override or debt exclusion. And we did present that to MSBA when we did our initial presentation to them. And the building committee is working to ensure that we are going to come up with a number that we can bring forward in February that the town can afford to pay. And we've spoken, the town's actual reimbursement rate is like 59.2%. That's not gonna happen. It's more likely gonna be someplace 50, maybe 51, if we're lucky, maybe 52. Because the way this process works is the state allows you $275 per square foot of construction. In the last 2.5 to 3 years, a project has not come in for less than $330 a square foot. So the delta between what the state will reimburse for and what we decide to build falls upon the shoulders of the town. What we are allowed to do now at this point is come through with the schematic design. The schematic design is going to lead to plans being submitted in December to MSBA that will be a cost and scope of our project. This will be a true number of what the projection is off of the design, off of the estimates, and there will be 2 sets of estimates done at this point in time. There will be another two set of estimates done following the submission. It will go to MSBA, I believe the date is December 12. We anticipate hearing formally from them sometime in January. If I had to make a best guess at this point, the number on the table is $60 million. We'll be coming to town meeting, hopefully, if all goes as presently planned, in February. We'll be looking for some number that's in a range, hopefully below the $60 million, but I can't tell you how much below the $60 million it'll be. The folks need to know that we, the building committee, have been looking at expenses, and we have told our people that they need to maximize the dollar and minimize them as best we can. We have met with you personally and with your subcommittee, and we've reviewed the fact you've told us what we need to do, and basically we're working towards that objective of coming in with a number the town can afford. We know we don't have carte blanche, and we've told our architects and so forth that we don't have carte blanche, that we have a responsibility to our town meeting, to our taxpayers, to put together a number that doesn't cripple us moving forward for the years to come. So basically, the big day is going to be in February. We're going to have true numbers, and they're going to be surprising numbers. They're going to be numbers that we really haven't put on the town meeting in the past. When you think about a $60 million project, if it were to go at that number today, that's a big number.
Big number.
And I don't know that anything like that has hit the town meeting, so I think we need to watch our dollars and cents as we move forward to that point in time, because there is gonna be a big number put on that town meeting floor. So that's essentially where we are, and we're moving forward, and we will, well, we're gonna continue to meet until we put everything together in December.
Awesome. Thank you, Aldo.
You're welcome.
All right. What I'd like to do next is, on the agenda, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9 articles that went through the capital subcommittee. So Al, what I'd like you to do, if you could, or one of your team, is just give us a synopsis of what the process is, how we came up with these, and then I'd like to vote on all of them. We do not have the proponents here because they've already been to his committee, so.
Okay. I can go down department by department if that's way more.
I just wanna, I think,
I mean,
it's just a
basically-
summary of what we do, how we got here, and,
We've met with almost all of the committees. Some items were pretty self-explanatory, so we didn't have to go through every detail. But we're setting up a process where major projects will be meeting together every 3 to 4 months to get updates. So it's no longer, in the past, we've kind of talked about initially, and then they go away for a year. We thought it would be better if we could come back to this committee with interim reports. So we will be flagging some of the bigger projects, and not even approved projects, but things like the Parks Department wants to talk about new fields. The number initially was 700,000. When they went and had it bid, it was 2 million. So rather than wait till next fall and have a, kind of a quick overview, we're gonna work together on a quarterly basis. And then the subcommittee will report back to the full committee.
but basically, you're taking all this information off of everybody's 5-year plan.
Taking the 5-year plan, 14 through 18, we're looking at all the items that they have on there that no longer are just placeholders, like we think we ought to have $100,000 in a couple years. Those have been eliminated. Every item on the 5-year plan has specific item associated with it and a justification for it. So, again, if you want me to start, there's a dump truck from the Parks Department that the one they have today is 25 years old. It's really gone past its useful life, and that's $44,000. We did ask, and I won't bore you with all the details, but did they check with Highway and other departments to see if there's alternatives available? They did. There aren't. So the group decided favorable on a recommendation to this committee of $44,000. That was the only item on this year's parks list. Okay, we went, Highway, it's got an Elgin sweeper. I don't know how you discuss a sweeper. It's past its useful life since it was purchased in '97. There's nothing else on Scotty's list for this year. Fire Department drilled down to 3 items. One is the air compressor. That's what they charge all their air tanks with. We do need, it's time to replace that one. So there's a $50,000 line item there. We did ask a question as to why we only have one, because that was concerning. That seems pretty critical. It's like, what happens if that one goes down? Chief Toohey felt comfortable that there's enough towns around us that if ours went down while it was being serviced, he could go there. So there's no need to have a backup air compressor. Brush one, $345,000. This is the main brush one. In the past, Chief Toohey's gone off and scavenged army trucks and put tanks on it. He can do that on the other 2. But this is the main one that serves as the pumping unit in the heart of the brush trucks. So this one, we really do have to buy a true brush one truck for $345,000. The pickup truck is reached its useful lifetime. is the one they use to plow and to run around and do their things. That's $45,000. Those were the 3 items on their list. The police chief, I mean, this is kind of normal. We had agreed that we don't want him coming to us once every 3-4 years with a whopping, 75 to 100 grand request, that he should phase in his IT needs. So the chief has for the next 4 years, 25 grand per year, and it's a phase-in process. Town hall, we have 2 items on there, $50,000, which we did not get a chance to get details on for a phone system. So that'll be discussed here. The committee did not discuss it. We talked to Rick over the phone. He said he's putting in a placeholder. He'll have details ready for this meeting. And obviously, we asked the question, a lot of the phone systems now in industry are going to hosted systems, where you don't buy any of the hardware. You just rent the phones, like per seat, per phone, and that eliminates all your upfront. I'm not sure how that plays in the municipal setting, as to how, if we're gonna keep a phone system for 10 years, do the numbers become inverted? Rick said he would check that. And then we have the water company consulting for $100,000.
Yeah, I have that, that's a separate one.
That's a separate line. We did not discuss that. And the only other thing that was on the list was the library to come forward and talk about the need this year for replacing their roof. And those were all the items. If you look, that comes out to, hold on, about 1.2 million if we funded every article out of our budget. That would be over what we budgeted, the typical $800,000 to $1 million a year. But it doesn't, this does not suppose that we must take it all out of the budget. We figured that would be for the FinCom after they decide each line item as to source of funding. The only thing we did not put in this year that we talked about for years was putting some money away for Godfrey Brook.
Right.
So the 1.2 does not include what we talked about last year and the year before of starting to put away $250,000 a year for Godfrey Brook. We as a committee did not put that in.
All right, we may have that covered in a different way.
Well, again, I just wanted to bring it up because that was something that the FinCom as a whole said we should consider for the future.
Right.
So that's kind of everything in a nutshell. If we fund everything on that list, including the library roof, you're at 1.2 million.
Cal, could you just run through those items,
I'll-
just quickly again,
I'll-
just
I'll
in
do
the
it.
interest of summarizing them?
I'll do it.
Okay.
If you're done, let's just go over by article, okay?
Yeah.
Article 6 is the library roof. Sue, are you gonna talk about that for a minute?
I can.
Would you?
Hi, everybody. The roof is the original roof from 1986, and we're starting to have separation issues. It's a rubber roof. And we're starting to have numerous leaks, and we're spending, $1,000 each time we have to fix the roof. And it's time for it to be replaced. It's old technology, and I've worked with the new town engineer, Vonnie Rice, and I worked with her, and I worked with Rick Villani, and we came up with a number with all the contingencies and everything, $350,000 up to.
So it's beyond repair, is what you
Oh,
said.
yeah, we have been, in the last 2-3 years, we've repaired it 5 or 6 times. It's an old gravel roof, and it's to the point where we had somebody from Russo Bar Associates go up there and check it out, and they're the ones that gave us the initial estimate, and they said it's time.
1987, you said?
1986.
Years old.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, keep it with our mandate to replace roofs,
Michael? Oh, go ahead.
replace roofs when it's time, because they lead to bigger problems afterwards.
Well, I mean, if we had it looked at by the people that know, and it needs to be replaced, then it's up to this committee to decide whether to spend the money to replace the roof.
Mark,
Discussion?
my only concern would be, is that enough money? Is that a good quality estimate?
Well, we initially had it for $231,000, That was the initial one, and then it said a 15% contingency fee. And so I worked with the town administrator, and we felt 350,000 was adequate. But if you want to up it, that's fine, but that's what,
I just,
Chief, what did the police station roof go for last year? You recall?
doesn't matter, it's all different.
Yeah, well,
Two
same
something.
size buildings.
It rained down on me, I didn't go up into it.
It was 200 and something thousand.
Yeah, it was,
But it's not as big, I don't think it's as big a roof.
Mark,
ours, compared to
it's okay.
Oh, yeah,
Is
that's
it?
what I thought.
We did both
Mark, it's
front and
okay.
back
If
ones.
it's too much, we'll get the money back.
No question.
Yeah,
We
so-
did front
Yeah.
and back on the police station.
Oh, okay, all right, both sides.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, comparable size
The-
buildings.
yeah, without a doubt, I mean, square footage is.
The,
Do we need a motion individually?
what time? One more question. The roof that you're gonna spec, is it going to be 20-year roof, 30-year roof, 35-year roof?
right now, it's 20-year warranty.
Why would we not put in a better roof?
Right.
Pay the money up front?
May I, Sue, is there any way of checking what the difference would be getting a 30-year warranty roof?
Well, I can talk to the town engineer again, but this is I worked with her to get the estimate. And the
Just I
company.
remember on some of the schools, when we went through this, and the cost, I won't say is trivial or nominal, but it wasn't significant
Correct,
compared with those extra 10 years.
correct.
Get the number.
Trouble 10 years, is
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
That's right.
From 20 to
30,
30,
yes,
with all the
that's right.
problems it had.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's get that.
That's a good point.
Well, it's the same company that's doing the police roof,
And what's the
What did
police
you
roof?
same engineer.
Same engineering, not.
Yeah.
But you guys, I thought, spec the 30-year roof. Right. And the schools have spec 30-year roofs.
All right, I
So
can
we-
do that,
we'd
that's
like
no
you to-
problem.
We'd like
Yeah.
you to go back and come back to us with a number for a 30-year roof.
So, all right, would you like that? I have to,
We have a meeting next week, I guess we can,
okay,
we can
that's
wait
no
till next
problem.
week.
Yeah, that's fine,
All
sure.
right, thank you, Sue. Article 9.
So for
Article 9 is telephone system.
the purposes, the night, number 6 comes off the blanket approval. Right.
We're just gonna go through them individually. Rick? I didn't wanna do this, but we'll do it. Phone system, you have an article on for phone
Yes,
system?
good evening. I think, as you know, the phone system is well over 10 years old. It's vintage. It's no longer able to be warranted. We can't get parts. We can't refurbish. So it's time to replace it. I have looked into new systems. They're all now IP-based, as you know, so it's a whole different era. I have looked into, as Mr. Correa alerted me to look into whether or not we want to go cloud-based. Two things that probably would suggest we would not. One, not really set up for municipalities, buildings such as this. And two, mainly what you talked about in your introduction here. These systems now can go well over 10 years. Some of the quotes I got for the cloud-based, you're looking at roughly 23,000 a year, as opposed to purchasing a system for hopefully in the neighborhood of 50,000, having the system, and then having the maintenance contract. Most of the updates now are IP software-based. I think it's clear that we need a new system, and I think that would be the way to go. I'm still looking into the cloud-based, but I'm not seeing
It
it.
seems, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
All right, are you done?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Go
It
ahead.
seems a bit high, because I think we were paying, Bob, you would know this stuff more than us, but it was like a couple hundred,
Go ahead.
it seemed like $10 a month ahead to rent, the service, to 20.
Couldn't tell you.
So I guess it depends on how many.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at,
22,000, I mean, how many people are in the town hall? that
you're looking at, we approximate over 50
That'd be what?
hardware sets. The other problem, I think, is that the
$400 per person per year.
the speed and the
Probably right.
dedicated voice quality you need.
No, but that's probably right, 400, 2 to 400 per person.
22,000.
Yeah, you're talking,
50.
I love the concept,
Yeah.
as you and I talked about it. I'm not convinced right now that that's the way to go. I think it
Not
would
if
be
you're gonna hold, that's
counterproductive.
why I said.
And again, these systems are,
I was worried that in municipal, we hold it for 10 years,
yeah,
so the numbers may
possibly
invert.
longer in this case, but from what I'm being told. The other nice thing about the system that we will put in is that the add-on is going to be very easy. So if another building in town would need it, we have all the software, we have all that. So the add-on, I mean, Woodland School, I don't know, I'm told maybe
Senior center.
Highway, Senior Center, whatever. The add-on would, I think, be cost-efficient for the next building to need a new phone system.
Yeah, but Howard, all right,
Sorry.
I'm not gonna go into it.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Need a motion?
Yes, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move favorable on Article 9, I believe it is.
9.
I'll second it.
60,000, is that the?
Yeah, I did just, the quote came in a little higher, I want to be sure, but yes, thank you.
60,000. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
All right, Article 11. Park Commissioners truck, 44,000. Park Commissioners aren't here. They spend time with the subcommittee.
Subcommittee recommend,
Yes.
motion favorable?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Article 13. 13 is the air compressor for the chief. Already had discussion with the subcommittee, subcommittee's recommendation.
We've heard this previous years, right?
Yep.
Discussion favorable?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Article 14, the infamous brush truck. Chief, you really need the brush truck?
Yes, we do.
Okay, this time he does.
Motion
For
favorable?
those of you who haven't been here before, never mind.
We've been through this.
Too many times. All right.
Motion favorable?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? You got it this time, chief.
Glad we don't have to do it again.
For a while, hopefully.
I'm glad he got it the year he needs it.
14,
Wouldn't follow
18.
the
Article 18 is the street sweeper. And Scotty's not here, but he did talk with you guys.
It's a street sweeper.
Right.
Yeah, he has two. Yeah, is it replacing one or adding?
No, I think
No,
I think they're
my
replacing them.
understanding is it's replacing the old one.
He's asking my question.
Okay, well,
And you sure about that? Yeah?
yeah, he only has two,
Yeah, we just bought a new one a few years back.
2 years back, and it's just,
A new one, a couple years
Joycey.
back. Probably 3 years now.
it's yours, right?
So this is another one,
Highway's
another new
yours?
one.
It's a big one.
Oh, time out, guys.
Kinda.
Kinda is or kinda isn't?
Well.
Used to
Chris-
be.
Used to be. Yeah, you put Chris as a chair on that one now.
Oh, all right.
Replace it, and the reason that the 3R is
Sorry.
because there was a year where it broke down and it screwed up the cycle and it brought the two of them together. So the two do come in, I think the last one was 3 years ago, but it is to replace the second one.
And if I recall, the one that we bought a few years ago, it has to do more than the old street sweepers had to do because of the requirements now,
Yeah.
so.
Motion favorable for the 190,000.
Second.
Willie? Take a nap, no. Any discussion?
Yeah, just one quick question. I know at one time we were looking at leasing. I know Scotty was leasing with the option to buy. Was that looked at at all?
He did not mention it to me, but I know when he looked at the last thing because of the use on it and the time that the cost was not there.
Okay.
Because he was keeping them for so long and,
All right, well, I know at one time they were leasing.
We do lease some of the
Yeah,
things, I
and I
agree.
didn't know if they looked at that option, that's all. Thank you.
All in favor? Opposed? Street sweeper. 19, pickup truck for the chief. Albert?
Again, this is the one we just discussed, which the chief uses for plowing and other miscellaneous. We went through whether we could squeeze another few years out of it. The chief felt this was way past its lifetime. Seemed reasonable. It's on the normal cycle.
Okay.
So the group said,
How old is the older?
Chief, do you remember how old this one was?
94.
94?
10 years old.
Motion favorable?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Pickup truck. And Article 20, chief's computers, we talked about that ad nauseum.
Motion favorable?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. All right, that covers the first part. Is Personnel Board here?
At least, what you said?
Sir.
Okay.
Article 5.
Have a donut.
Article 5. The Personnel Board wants to do a classification compensation study of salaried and hourly rated positions under jurisdiction of the Personnel Board.
On Article 2, that's right. The last time the study had been done was 2001. For those of you who aren't familiar with the study, in this particular case, we're not going to do a full-blown redo of the job descriptions. We're going to review all job descriptions, update those that need to be updated, and retype them all, get them all into a media that we can copy when needed. They're also going to do an assessment of local towns on salary and benefit study. So he's gonna be sending out, the person that's doing the study, Jacobs, is going to be sending out a questionnaire to all of the local towns, requesting information on the salary and hourly participants. After the study is completed, he's gonna bring those results back to the board and review them with the board. And he's also going to review the salary structure that we currently utilize for setting wages. So we're gonna look at the possibility of introducing a different way of setting minimums and maximums for wage range. And it's nothing definite, but if we had this in place, it would be easier at some time in the future to move into a merit-type review process, which is something that a lot of people have talked about in the past, but no one's attempted to do yet. And I'm not sure we're gonna be able to do that, but this format would make it easier to go in that direction.
Mr. Chairman?
Sir?
A couple of questions. Am I looking at this correctly? It's $4,900 for this?
Yes.
It's $4,500, and we put in $400 for copying purposes.
Okay. Are they going to look at the non-union salaries also?
The non-union salary, yes.
Okay, the
It's
reason I'm asking.
not union at all.
This
It's
is all
Article,
non-union?
Article 2.
Article 2 only.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is that every year we keep getting closer and closer to parity between the non-union and the union. So it's either gonna be one or the other. If we're gonna have parity, then let's have everybody do the same thing. We keep chipping away at these things.
Well, we do chip away at it, but
I know, but I don't wanna chip away at it. I want it to be what it's supposed to be, and we make the one move, you know, whatever the salary increase is, it is. So we don't have to come back, well, this group wants parity, and then next year another group wants parity, and another group wants parity. So, I mean, one or the other, do it all that way. Now, the other question I have for you, I know that some of the members on this board that have been around for a while, mature people, and we did a study back in the 80s called the Olney Report. And it was sold to those of us that said, yes, let's do it, with the idea that once we pass the Olney Report, we will never, ever need to do this again, because we establish what the baseline is now, and then it just grows every single year. I think this is very good that you're going to do something like this. But I would really like to see something that comes out of the Personnel Board that's going to say, you know, once we get a baseline established, let's keep the baseline valid so that we don't have to suddenly jump up over here and jump up over there. And how that happens is you set a place, you put a protocol together, and you don't vary from that protocol. That's what kills us. We vary from the protocol, so last year's numbers don't become valid this year. So I think you're doing the right thing, but I would hope you'd come back in a year and say, this is what we're going to do or recommend that we do, so we don't have to do one of these again.
I can't guarantee that we'll never do one of these
I
again.
know, but you can make us feel good and say, we're not gonna do it again.
It would be nice if we didn't have to do one again.
Give us, make us feel good when we walk out and say, boy, we accomplished something tonight.
Mark? The last time this was done in 2001,
Yes.
if my memory serves me correctly, didn't we spend $10,000-$12,000 to do this? A lot more than $4,500.
Yeah, it was a full-blown rewrite in 2001. And we're not rewriting all the job descriptions this time. We're just reviewing the job descriptions and updating them.
Okay, so this is enough money to get the job done, is my
Yes.
concern.
That was
'cause
my
it's-
concern.
It really, from the standpoint of professional advice, counsel, it really looks, I know you don't hear this very often out of this committee, but it looks like a bargain to me, and I would rather if you
Yeah, they
not
have,
have to come back.
they have a quote.
Huh?
They have a quote from the
Okay.
gentleman.
If you're happy, I'm thrilled, so.
Yeah,
If you recall, the last time we had one of these studies done, back 10 years ago, this committee wanted to add part-time elected officials to that study. And we brought that up to the Personnel Board again, and I met the gentleman that's going to do their study, and in fact, I can schedule him to come in next week and talk about doing the other one, the part-time
do.
elected.
Please
So
do.
Yeah.
we'll do that, because he also has given me a quote to do that.
Because this is,
And so we'll put it on the
in my
agenda.
opinion, this is a
We'll put it on the
great deal.
agenda for next week.
So,
right.
I'll tell him I said that.
Any other discussion? Need a motion?
Motion approved, second.
You can't, who, he did?
Bobby said
Okay.
motion, and I said second.
Did I?
Did you?
No,
Wait, are we keeping you up?
no, I'm paying attention. I know what I'm saying.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Nobody?
Yeah.
Everybody needs to raise their hand. It's one of the rules. Thank you. Okay. Any, again?
thank you.
Article 21. Vernon Grove.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I won't take much of your time, I promise.
Good, because you're
It'll
already.
be very
you're already
brief.
late.
You're already in good shape.
You're already in good
Behind
shape.
schedule. Let's go.
The article you see in front of you was a quote for a mower for $16,000. It's not that. When we had to put the article in under time constraints, it was still up in the air in discussion if we were gonna go to diesel machine or a gas machine. We decided a gas machine, one for cost, two, that's what we've been running. It's a $13,000 quote now. We're basically replacing a tractor that's a 1997, it's an old farm tractor. We're replacing that with a more modern zero-turn, more efficient for leaf pickup. I mean, anyone that has seen a landscaper has these machines. They're very common, very, economical. I mean, basically, like I said, we're replacing a tractor that's been mowing for 17 years. There's really no resale value on it. It's too old. It's been beaten up. It's starting to break down now. And we did have a plan actually in place last year that we were gonna get one of the park department older machines that they fixed up. They ended up keeping it because they ran into problems with another machine, so that plan kinda went the way of the dodo, and we felt it was time we had to go and get a machine before this older one completely falls apart and we only have one.
Okay, so the only problem or question that I have for you, I don't have a problem with the mower, I understand what you need it for, is that it didn't appear in a 5-year plan. And I don't even think you guys submitted a 5-year plan.
Yeah, we never even got the memo for the 5-year plan.
Got it now. We need a 5-year plan.
That's not a problem. There's a couple of things we actually have been talking in-house for. We just never got the memo to forward that to wherever it has to be, because we have it all in writing, ready to go.
Good, just forward it to Al.
No problem. That's not a problem.
And make sure there's no columbarium on there, because we've already.
Don't worry, that's
we've
all
already done
taken
that.
care of. No, this is just for maintenance right now.
Okay,
Motion
Move
approved for
favorable.
the 13,000.
yeah,
Second.
13.
13.
13.
Thank you.
13.
Moved,
Second.
second moved.
Vice
Any other
versa.
discussion? All in favor? Hands, guys? Yeah, excellent.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
All right. Article
Don't
24.
even bring those up.
We didn't spend 30 minutes.
Chiefs, we got
Gentlemen.
chiefs together.
All right, this is
co-chiefs.
gonna be the
This is,
chief show.
Chiefs.
25-year plan.
Article
Whatever you
24
want, I'm not
is,
gonna be
is to put some money away for fire and police department upon compensated absence. So this is absent buyback, sick leave
This is
buyback.
basically sick leave buyback, which are collective bargaining, liabilities within our contracts that are unfunded in our annual budgets. When an employee puts in for retirement, they're due their sick leave buyback per the contract language that we have. This looks to put aside money so that in the event that happens, we have the ability to go tap that without drawing down additional funds from our existing budgets.
How much are we talking about, Mr. Chairman?
100,000.
100,000. Right now, my department has two.
Excuse me, Chief, collectively?
Collectively, 100,000. Right now, my department has two people that are forecast to retire this fiscal year. The liability for the sick leave buyback for those two individuals is projected to be in the area of $25,000. Total. The problems arise when an individual comes in and puts in for their retirement closer to at the end of the fiscal year. We don't have a lot of wiggle room to go and do this, to be able to make it work. What I do right now in the fire department is I'll hold open that position for a number of weeks till I recoup that money based on the salaries that are budgeted.
We know how you work.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask the chief of police what he anticipates needing?
No, he's just here for looks. Sure.
Well, that's a good thing.
Although I still have a number of people that are in the union that I have to pay them a full 120 days. The last retirement I had was a sergeant. It was just under $20,000 for the 120 days. That's one individual. I mean, fortunate for you and for me, he retired halfway through the year. So I simply ran vacant. I still had to hit overtime because I go to my minimums, but nevertheless, not as often. I mean, the fire chief, he had multiples of people that went out. If I had a couple go out, as you know, we come up towards the end of the year, you're within a 0.5%. Well, if I have two people go, there's my 1%. And I'm coming up to the end of the year, am I gonna make payroll?
What do you anticipate, Chief, during this fiscal year?
I have people come in and tell me they're gonna go, and they don't go. I have others, you just don't know.
To tell you they're gonna go,
Right now, I have people that have reached the 32 years, they reached the max. I have half a dozen sitting that could go.
And I have 5. Last year, I had 5 individuals retire after the first of the year last year.
with no prior notice, snuck up on you
It snuck up that day.
that day?
Phil?
yeah, Tom, I don't know if you know this, but do other town departments have the same sick leave buyback provision? Because I want to know, is it unique to fire and police, or do we have?
I don't know the answer to that
We have
question.
exposure in other town departments.
Jerry's there.
Yeah, it's fairly unique to police and fire. There's a minor sick leave buyback, if you wanna call it that, it's in the Cuffview school contract, but that's it. It's very, and again, it's small, the school plans for it, it's not an issue, so. Police and fire still have the leftover from the early 70s major sick leave buyback. We rolled them back over the years, but they're still there.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
You rolled it back to half, so I still have half a dozen or so that are eligible for 120 days. So round number, that runs me about 20,000. The remainder of the employees are half of that, so they're roughly about 10,000. But if, the difficulty we run into is you come up close to the end of the year. I mean, as you know, we've had retirements who have never come back, the fire chief or I, and said to the committee, please give us the money to take care of that sick leave buyback. We've taken care of it. Our concern is if that occurs in May, or if that occurs in April, you're gonna have to hold a special town meeting, or you're gonna have to come up with some emergency funds, a significant amount.
I mean,
In
we
some
obviously
cases.
have emergency funds. If it's unknown, that's what that money is for. but.
Yeah, I've experienced it firsthand, years gone by where we came up short within the fire department, not due to this situation, but due to a very bad brush fire year where we had an overtime. And we ended up with a special town meeting on June 28th in 2000 to fund the fire department budget for the end of the fiscal year. This is an attempt to try to set aside funds that are earmarked strictly for this purpose. And the only time they can be touched is to pay that, that liability to the sick leave buyback and for no other reason. And it prevents us from having to come back to potentially a special town meeting, which, if you were there for that, it took, three times taking attendance, over a course of an hour and a half to get a quorum to hold that meeting, so.
No, Bobby was next.
Yeah, it is your plan to draw down this money as needed. And just assume for discussion purposes that you take $75,000 out this year from both departments.
Right.
At what point do you expect to come back to town meeting and the finance committee for more money to replenish those funds? Is the $100,000 your float level, or do you think the float level
Well,
could be
I think
somewhat less? Or
my
is this
opinion,
your
it's
best judgment at this point?
It's my best judgment at this point, or our best judgment at this point, to start at $100,000, given it's spread between the two departments. Any given year, it could be more or less.
I understand.
And looking at the fact that we have, an annual town meeting in the spring and a special in the fall typically every year, we basically have twice a year the ability to introduce additional funding if needed. But I think that $100,000 is a good benchmark to start with.
So if it goes down to 50 this year, do you expect coming back for 50 more, or would you live with the 50 for a period of time? Or don't you know yet, because this is uncharted territory?
It's kind of wait and see, Bobby. I mean, some of the difficulty too is not just an issue of coming back. For John or I to sit there and say, okay, we're gonna recover the 20,000 we paid out over a period of 6 months, there's in some respects a loss to the agency. There's things that I couldn't accomplish because I had to pay that money out. In other words, I had to leave money sitting to cover it. So, I mean, as you know, when we looked at the capital list, if you look at the police department, the only thing I have on there now, when you came to us, Mark, a year or so ago, I took everything else off. And those are things that I've whittled away at and are dealing with within the budget. It becomes enormously a headache in trying to get to the bottom line and accomplish some of those things and other things that are necessary as well.
I'm sorry.
And do this, but
Did I understand town council to say that this should go away at some point, because?
no, it's half.
Oh, okay.
It's
Albert.
been reduced.
Albert.
Chief, my understanding is even if 4 people told you they're gonna retire at the beginning of the year, and they did, you don't have money to cover it anyway.
Correct. We don't put this money into the budget every year.
That's what I'm saying, so
Right.
short of either I guess in your case, Tom, not doing the IT investment that we want you to do, or B, taking a cop off the street or a firefighter off the truck, there's no way of making up for, say, 50 grand at best, if 5 people, 100 grand at worst. So you would have to come back for extra money anyway.
You may, but in my case, with the one sergeant going, you hit the nail on the head. Basically, I ran without a police officer for 6 months and did my best to recover that money.
So now-
I went without purchasing things the department needs to recover that
So
money.
now, if this money goes through, you'll come back as part, to your subcommittee and just give us a report on, I needed to take 20 grand because Officer X had his, and we'll know how many people are retiring, dipping into this.
Correct. We would communicate with the subcommittee and
Right.
with Zach and the town administrator, so that everybody, is on the same board. There's no obligation on the part of the employee to notify us, other than the day they're walking out the door. And frankly, in some situations, they don't feel they have to notify us at all. I get the word from the retirement board, so.
But actually, Chief, my point is, even if they did notify you,
It doesn't matter. I mean,
where do you have $100,000 in slack?
Exactly.
My question is, why is it more difficult to come back to this committee or go to town meeting twice a year? I mean, I understand if we're between town meetings or if we miss a town meeting.
Well, what I'm trying to accomplish is not having to hold my positions vacant until I can get additional funding from someone. If I have to wait to go to town meeting, I'm holding that position vacant. What I'm trying to do is we rely heavily on off-duty response with the fire department. So if I'm down 4 or 5 people for an extended period of time, that's 4 or 5 people less that come back on an off-duty recall for work and fire. The faster that I can refill these positions, the better it is for the department and the community.
And I understand that. That's not what I asked, Chief. I mean, because it's an unforeseen situation, we have the funds to cover that, for the most part, in our emergency fund. And you don't need to go to town meeting to get approval from that fund. You just come to this committee and get approval for that money. Unless you're in a town meeting sequence, okay, if you know what I mean.
The difficulty when we talk about filling a position, Mark, it's not simply you hire someone off the street and now they're out there doing the job. We have to find academy slots, get them in, and we run the loss of those academy slots, particularly the fire chief. You know, and it's gonna be me more so as well in the future because of lateral transfers, but, you know, the slot comes vacant, there's an academy, you can get them in, you don't have the money. You're jammed up.
But
These are unfunded liabilities
I
within
understand.
both of our departments.
I get it.
And this, by accepting this chapter of law and establishing this fund and seeding it with this money, provides us the ability to just seamlessly go through a retirement, tap that pool of funds, pay out that employee, and move on and hire the next employee
And
without breaking stride.
There's not a reluctance to come back to the finance committee. In fact, that's what we just said. We're at that money's sitting there. We know, we're gonna go back to our subcommittee. We're gonna have that conversation with them. We're gonna have the conversation with the town administrator and with Zach, you know, so that everybody's on board. That in this case, it makes financial sense to roll the money out of that account to cover this particular liability.
Mark, is this not like, almost like a revolving account?
it is.
We're putting
It is.
$100,000
What it
in,
is.
Right here.
and then twice a year, we're expecting that through the subcommittee, you'll come back and say, we dipped in it for $10, we'd like to replenish the 10 that we dipped in, so it always stays at this fixed
At
level.
a safe level too.
And that doesn't disrupt safety operations, but at
Right.
the same time, gives the subcommittee time to study it with you and report. It seems like almost a revolving account.
But it's not a revolving account.
No, I didn't say it is a revolving, it feels like it.
Quasi.
That's what the clarification I wanted also. If we approve 100,000, set up this account with 100,000, come June of next year, at the end of the year, there's 50,000 left over. Now, does that money drop to free cash, or does that money carry over to the next year?
No,
Net
the
reserve
way-
funds?
Stays in the
The way
reserve.
I understand it, stays in that fund
Is
and
that what we're gonna
rolls.
do, is state, okay, whatever's left carries
Right,
over to the next year?
it rolls, correct.
Open a checking account.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
So it does have the feel of a revolving account.
But it's not, the only income to the revolving account is what we allocate.
Whenever we need to put more
It's
funds
okay.
in,
I'm
we
okay
have
with
to
it as long
come
as I understand
back
what we're doing.
before this committee in town meeting to put new funds into that to
So
replenish
back
it.
to the chairman's question, you're correct, and why do we're just gonna have to keep refunding this account as each and every town meeting,
Yeah,
or budgetary section.
Correct.
Session.
So long as we hire police officers and firefighters.
Okay, that's fine, yeah, I mean, I actually.
Oh, I'm just saying, that's the summation. It's a benefit that's there.
I feel comfortable, because otherwise what the chief is saying is true. If you don't have a guarantee for that funding,
Raise your hand.
sorry.
I had the floor before you interrupted.
Oh, wait.
You gave it up, over here.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question. Will that, a fund, call it what you will it be administered by the town accountant? Well, then, it won't be
Yes.
administered by anyone. And so it'll go from year to year, as you said, very similar to what a revolving account would be. And the town accountant will essentially be the one who comes before this board.
Correct.
Suggesting that we need additional funding for that particular account.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, just with consultation with us, who do you think's going, type of thing.
I would
You all
make a
set?
motion to approve.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
you know, there's a part of me that says that both of you have done such a great job over the years managing your budgets that, you know, why change?
That's the part we like.
It isn't broken, right?
But there's the why change, Tom. But,
Because my hair can't get any whiter.
but on the other hand,
As long as it's still growing, chief.
I do respect your budget integrity over the years, both of you. I think you have managed under unique circumstances. So I guess I would be in favor, but you have done a good job managing as is.
Mark, I would move in favor.
Then move.
Yeah,
Move in
I'll
favor
move
for the
favor.
$100,000 and setting up the account, both. So you gotta, both of them gotta be in the article at the same time. Because this article doesn't have any money attached to it. at this
It
point.
says,
Requires statutory approval.
so it's combined to both, right, Jerry? Yeah.
Yeah, so we're
Yeah,
we're doing
appropriate
both.
and
We're saying
transfer
we're-
available.
And we're requesting
$100,000.
$100,000 in the same
Correct.
article.
Correct.
So I would move favorable.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Against?
Before I run, are you gonna do sex offender amendments?
Now,
Awesome.
Okay,
you,
This is my favorite
all right.
Essentially, all you're looking at are the recommendations, we passed the bylaw, it went to the Attorney General, the Attorney General approved with suggestions that came back to the town. I've reviewed them with town council, and Jerry Moody and I went through word for word, and that's what you see before you, are the amendments recommended by the Attorney General to clear up any types of, I guess, ambiguities or, things of that nature that could lead to someone contesting us constitutionally. So,
This is Article 8, guys. This is-
Are we okay with
This
refer
be
to
refer to
sponsor?
sponsor?
It would be.
I move to refer to sponsor.
I'd second that.
I thought we weren't doing that
Any
anymore.
other
I'm okay, you
discussion?
can blame me, I'm good.
No, it's just procedural.
All in favor? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you all.
That takes care of that one.
These are right on schedule here. Article 4. And I will speak for the highway surveyor. I've been given permission to speak for him. The highway surveyor wants to hire a consultant to review Water Street to intersection of 140 and Route 16, to redo the intersection and the sidewalks and pave the streets and get this all onto the state approved list so they can fund it or fund partial of it. He was asking for 300,000, he only needs 75 to get it on the list, and I told him we would approve 75,000.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sounds good to me.
The 300 did catch my attention.
question,
Yes, sir.
what is the consultant going to do for us?
He's an engineer,
Or for him?
he's gonna engineer the thing and,
He's gonna put together plans?
yes,
He's gonna put together the submittal for reimbursements?
correct. All of those things. He actually wants to get it onto the state list, but nothing's gonna happen for like 5
No,
years.
but I was just wondering, because as Phil said, that you originally 300,000, it would seem like we could pave a whole lot of that thing for 300,000 without a
It's gonna
consultant,
be
but.
granted out
No.
there.
75,000 is what the highway surveyor wants.
Mr. Chairman, I move
Seems like a lot of money to put together.
please.
All right, any second? Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Article 10, Jerry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This is an article, we had put it in at $2,000 to make a final payment for the final bill for one of the consultants that we utilized on the, what I view as rather successful water company rate case. We'll end up having spent about $72,000 when we pay this final bill. Pretty good return we got on that because we save about $1.3 million per year from what the water company was originally looking for. And so again, this will pay the final bill with a small amount left over if you want to be precise. But I would even suggest leaving that small amount there, get it as a placeholder for the next rate case, which will come inevitably a couple of years down the road. So $2,000 would do it. We could reduce it by 100 or so, get it down to an even number if you wanted to.
Move favorable.
Is it
Any other
$2,000?
discussion?
2,000.
All in favor? Thank you.
Jerry, is that the
Don't go
final
away, Jerry.
On that, yes.
I missed an article. How did I miss an article? Oh, because that's on the Board of Selectmen. All right. All right. Brian. Article 7.
Because he's going by person.
You guys leaving?
gonna open the window.
Hey, Brooklyn, you just take care of the meeting, Brooklyn.
Aldo, I'm going to open the window and Aldo puts his jacket
Save
Okay,
money.
it's all right, it's
All right,
It's cold down here, huh? It's cold, huh?
Yeah, freezing.
Brian.
Is this in a handout?
Mr. Chairman, thank
Yeah.
you. Yes, I put together a memo. I hope everyone got a chance to look at it. This is really the final piece at the high school field project. We've gone through a lot up there. There's been some unexpected items, as I think a lot of people know. It's delayed us a little bit, but we're in a position now where we want to finish it off as originally intended. And if you look at the memo that I gave you, we're looking to add a 26 by 36-foot handicap accessible restroom. It's going to have facilities for 6 female and 4 male. And one of the uncertainties in this project was probably about a year-long event to try to get a variance from the State Plumbing Board. And it was new territory. Our architect had not done it. Joe Zakilli was very, very helpful. And since that time, and I think we had great success, since that time, the architect has gone in on 2 other projects that he's working on, kind of mirrored what we did and has obtained variances. But it's a real problem across the state, and it kind of set us back a little bit, definitely in terms of time. But we have a variance now, and we've spec'd the building. The plans of the building are attached to the memo, so you can see it. We bid the project for the softball renovations and the restroom building, and I've got the 3 bids there that were received and opened on September 18th. The low bid was from Heimlich Landscaping, roughly $483,000. Now, we have savings on the project of about $343,000, which includes an appropriation in October of 11 of $150,000. That was the only money that's ever been appropriated for this aspect of the project. It was done before we had gone to the state, before we knew what the bathroom building was going to be, but it was good seed money to put forward to try to bring us to conclusion. And the balance of that has been realized through a savings on this original project, the football field, track, and tennis court aspect. So the budget that I have proposed here comes from the architect. There's additional engineering, construction, administration, relocation of the building from the plans. This is something that has been relatively new, and I think it's good that it's taken some time to do this. I don't know if any of you have been up there on a Saturday or a Sunday in the fall, but just recently, the Pop Warner, the Football League, they're putting a mobile, a trailer, a concession trailer, and a truck on the lot in the location of where this building was planned to be. It's right behind the tennis courts, kind of blocking the football field. And we have gotten some serious feedback from people that it's not a good location, it's very unsightly, and it really kind of interrupts that nice open view. So what we're looking to do is to simply slide the building over to the right, so it'll be kind of adjacent to the third-base dugout. It won't be the focal point of this project, as it should not be, but it's still in the center part of the field, and it'll be able to service softball, tennis, and track. That plan doesn't show it. No, that plan doesn't show it. That's what was actually spec'd, and that's why we have an additional cost, because we're gonna need some engineering, and there's gonna be some relocation costs in terms of the paving and also the piping and all of that sort of thing. So you see, with the existing funds we have, we're really looking for about $200,000 to finish this off. And the last part I put on, I think, is very important. The Highway Department, the Sewer Department, and the Milford Water Company all collaborated to bring water sewer from West Fountain Street to a central part in the field, and that's a savings to the town of about $50,000. So we're very thankful on that, and we may be able to enlist their services to bring it to the proposed location, which of course would reduce the allocation that we're looking for, but I don't know that yet. So the article that I'm seeking at this point to finish the project as originally intended is $200,000.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
May I? The additional 200,000, Brian, would include the work on the softball facility, am I correct?
Yes, everything.
Now, just would you be good enough to refresh my memory? The 150,000 that was appropriated in 2011 was added to what dollar amount that was in excess at
Well-
that point in time?
Well, that was very early on in the project, the project was $3 million.
No,
Yeah.
I'm just talking for that one unit. When you came to town meeting in 2011, excuse me for interrupting you.
Yeah.
You sought $150,000, so we could then build the restroom area, a combination, whatever. And how much money, this 150,000 was added to what dollar amount that was remaining in your account?
Well, the account was still fluid. We were projecting a savings of about $400,000. We have a savings of $200,000, rough numbers. The other $200,000 probably got used to upgrade the fields for the sewn-in lines as opposed to the painting. We added
I remember that.
handicap accessible parking, which was not originally spec'd. We added increased electrical conduit throughout the field, which enabled the school department to put up video cameras and also to run cable lines from areas that weren't originally spec'd. We tweaked and had to tweak some of the fencing. We had a very unfortunate vandalism incident, which that took up some cost, and we're trying to pursue to get that money back. There's probably some other things that
Let
I've
me
just
simplify
kinda,
it.
I've suppressed.
Let me simplify it if I may. How much money is going to go towards the original attempt to fund the restroom facility and the snack bar? Without, because I don't recall at that point in time that we were talking about redoing the softball field, other than if money was available, that we were gonna then apply it to the softball field. Obviously, money wasn't available if we're seeking additional funding here. Now, when is that, how has that all changed?
Yeah,
Well,
can I help a little bit?
yeah.
Brian, what was the original quote for the concession and the bathroom facility?
Well,
2 or 3 years ago, when we appropriated the
With the-
150, what was the original number?
That's the level of uncertainty, because we didn't have an original quote, because we didn't know how many toilets were gonna be required. And I remember Aldo, very, I think wisely said, you can put any number you want down, but until you get it spec'd and bid, you're not gonna know what the price is. Well, now we know what the price is, and the price is about $320,000. So at that point, we were looking to put seed money. We thought that we could get the building done for about $300,000. We thought that we would have an additional maybe $200,000 savings to carry us through. But as the project developed, we upgraded the project, and instead of about a $400,000 savings, we have about a $200,000 savings.
But the real change is the softball fields, because that's about, what, 133,000 here? So
Yeah,
that kind of
and-
accounts for the difference almost.
Yeah, almost. We had actually spec'd out the softball field after the October 11 appropriation, and that number came in at about $220,000. So we elected not to go forward because A, the architect felt that we could get a better price, and B, there was too much uncertainty about the restroom building at that time, and C, we were running into some things at the field. Oh, there was the big hunk of concrete underneath the home bleachers that no one seemed to know about, so we had to drill that apart, so those things. And I think in retrospect, it was good that we did that, because you see, the number comes in on the softball field, 130,000.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman? What did we-
Bill, you finished?
Yeah. What are we buying for the $133,000 softball upgrade? What is it we're
What you're
buying?
talking about is a total redo of the field. All of that stone dust is gonna be taken out. There's gonna be a clay infill. The outfield is gonna be brought into regulation size. I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but the field is all out of measurement. Center field, your short center field is still stone dust. So the grass is gonna be brought up. We're consolidating the fencing and bringing in all new fencing.
From the fencing in?
Yes, there's double fencing now if you look at it. So what we've done is we've tried to design so that the softball fence also can serve as the perimeter fence for the field. And we've done some of that on the third base side. We're gonna finish it on the first base side. Dugouts, outfield fence, foul poles,
Will we be looking for lights?
irrigation system.
Will we be looking for lights at some point in time?
That's not part of the plan,
Not on this one?
no.
Is
And
it projected for the future?
No,
Okay.
no, there's no desire on the athletic department to try to do that. This will, upgrade it and make it the first-class facility that the football and the tennis courts are now.
I just wanted to have an idea of what it is we're buying
Absolutely.
at this particular juncture. Thank you.
Brian, just a couple of quick questions. When will this restroom portion of this project be, for want of a better term, open for use? Is it every time there's a function at the field? Is it on weekends, or when will it be available to be used by the general public?
Yeah, well, that's really getting to the operation of the field, and that's kind of, the school department has kind of taken that over. So, I would imagine it would be similar to what's used now. So that, say you've got a AAU team or something, and you wanna use the field Friday night at 7, and you'd like to have access to the concession stand, you'd be able to do that.
So it's the school department's decision?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
As a follow-up then, what department will be responsible for cleaning that facility and maintaining it?
It's under the purview of the Parks Department to maintain the property as it is now.
Talking internally,
Yes,
Parks Department.
Parks Department. But I think, the boosters more or less unofficially run the concession
Right, right,
stand.
no.
And they really take a vested interest in it. And they've done a separate fundraiser. I don't know if you've realized you can buy bricks and with the names and everything. They've raised somewhere between 50 or 100,000. That money, I believe, is targeted to outfit this building, so we don't have to pay for that.
No, it was more towards the restroom portion of it, as to who was gonna be responsible for cleaning and maintaining it. You said the Parks.
The Parks
So I'm
Department.
okay with that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Al?
And just help me, because I'm still struggling with the number. 350,000, we had said, was the cost of building this, because it was 19 toilets and all that good stuff.
No, that's not.
320.
We had estimated that we could be somewhere between 200 and 300, but at that point, we didn't have a definite number of what the toilets were. We were hoping that we were gonna have success with the variance and get a reasonable number of toilets. If you had to build something with the toilets that they wanted, it would be off the charts. We would be better off
Help me
doing
understand.
nothing.
I mean, 350,000, I'm not saying I'm for or against it, just, the number just befuddles me, because 90% of the houses in Milford were built for less than what we're building a concession stand for, because the land is free.
Well,
I'm trying to get my,
okay, well, first of all, it's not a concession stand, okay? It's a handicap accessible restroom with a concession component. And secondly, it's not 350,000, it's 323. And the plans are right here, so this is the building.
but what costs so much?
Well, I mean, that's what it, that's what it came out at. Now, just to get a frame of reference, the architect is also building a similar type building in Wakefield. It's 26 feet by 68 feet, a little bit bigger than ours, $575,000. Gloucester is doing the same thing, 26 foot by 50 feet, 10 female, 11 male, $450,000.
But is that, but I'm just
So-
trying to get an idea, what goes into it? Is it the plumbing? What can cost that much money? Because Jerry, I understand there's a lot in here, but you can build a home in Milford for
It has to be done
less.
to code too, right?
It
has to be
it has
under
to be
strict
done to
code.
code, and when you build your house, you don't have to deal with prevailing wage. So, I mean, that's the project that we're dealing with.
And,
Yeah.
okay, now, if we left the building where it was, in the corner,
We are.
so we're not moving the building, it's staying in the same place?
This is a brand-new building. This is a modular concrete structure with the facilities built within it.
They just drop it down?
Exactly. Really? We have to do the connections to it, we have to put a foundation in, and then the building is
But it's the
put in
same
place.
plumbing and electric where it is now? Or are we moving it?
Expanding.
All
This is a new building, Al. It's gonna be located parallel to the third base dugout. The existing building is gonna remain where it is for the time being. This is an entirely new structure and setup designed to service the softball field, the tennis courts, and the football field, and be handicap accessible.
Whole point of Al is that it's gonna be centered, located so that you have a football game, you got restrooms, you got tennis courts being used, you got a restroom, you got the softball field, you got a restroom, you got the track. The current building's too far away, really, to be practical to be used for the softball field. This finishes off the project. Maybe a quick summary too, Brian, if you can, for the overall project. I think we've mediated all the other issues we had, right?
Just about, we have two issues with the bleachers and the tennis courts, but we're bringing that to resolution. We're still holding about $143,000 on the contract to get that ironed out. But, you know, that's pretty much, you know, we're in the home stretch on that. So now this is the final piece. So, I mean, you know, it is what it is. I mean, we went out to bid. You can see this is the low bid. RAD Sports, $370,000. Tasco Construction was $365,000. So,
So the current concession stand is too far
Gentlemen.
away? Is that?
this is the restroom building we're talking about. So it's
Well,
a
the current one
combination
with the
restroom and
combination.
concession. The existing concession building, the Parks Department would like to convert into a garage. Oh, one of the other things, Aldo, that we had to buy, the field, the Parks Department really needed to have an electric vehicle to service the field so that gas didn't drip on it and all that type of stuff. We couldn't find funding for it in anybody's budget, so it came out of here. That was about $11,000, so
And they
that's
also-
another one of the things.
Would
that
you
we're-
suggest that they also use that on the tennis courts and not drive on the tennis courts with the trucks? That would be very helpful.
I don't know if that's a problem, but,
We're getting off topic, guys.
yeah.
Drive on the tennis
But I mean, I just wanted, there's been a number of different upgrades that we added to the project that weren't bid, and that was one of them.
Chris?
Brian, I just have a couple questions, because when you came before for the 150, which I was in favor of, I stood up on town meeting floor and I voted for that. I was under the impression that this was going to finish up one of the jewels of our town, that you guys did a great job. And now we're coming back for another 200,000, and like I said, that was sold to me and I was in favor of it, because I do think that it finished off. And so that 383,000 that you had left with the leftover funds you guys had was gonna be able to create this project.
Where it is, right?
And now we're seeing we have another 200,000, and I'm still hearing things like going down home stretch, so I guess I'm asking, is this 200,000 done, or are we still coming down the home stretch, and that 200 could be something else later on, so.
We are clearly coming down the home stretch, because what we didn't have before was specs and a bid. So we knew that we were going to have to do this work. We knew that we were going to need more funding. We didn't know how much. So when we got that $150,000, it was really seed money. We were optimistic that we were gonna try to save as much as we could to get it done, but, you know, we.
Well, I knew you weren't gonna get it done for the 150, but we had been told that other 180 that you had left over from the fields was going toward this project. And you do have it in here, but, you know, I don't know if I missed the impression that I thought that 150 with the other 180 that you guys, because you spent so wisely on the project, had left over, that 330 was gonna take care of it. So I guess one question is, did I misinterpret that, with that 150 was going to finish the project? And then my other question is 200 going to be it?
In answer to your questions, Number one, yes, you misinterpreted the intent of the article in October of 11, and maybe I wasn't clear enough, but it was seed money to go towards, at that point, Chris, we didn't even know what kind of building we were gonna make. So we knew that there was going to be something that had to be done there. We were hopeful we were gonna, A, get a favorable ruling from the State Plumbing Board, and B, achieve enough savings in this project to be able to do it. Well, we hit probably 75% of the mark. And in answer to your second question, yes, this is the final piece of the project because we have spec bids for both the softball field and the restroom building.
So after this, if the town goes in favor for this 200,000, the field,
This closes the project.
We are done.
Correct. Because we now have, as Aldo had indicated earlier, we now have a bid number. Okay, so we know what that number is. We have certainty.
Okay. Thank you.
Phil?
Yeah, thank you. A couple of comments. Al, to your comment on cost, I mean, the building is approximately 1,000 square feet. It comes out at 300 a square foot, which on its face, Brian, seems high. But I'll accept the fact that you went out to bid, and it's the lowest bid, and it's 323. In terms of the overall project, we certainly have to do something with the restroom facility. So that has to be done. The softball field is the extra, and that's really where this extra 200,000 is coming from. And to be consistent with the rest of the grounds there, I mean, the football field is perfect. The tennis courts are very nice. We should do the softball field, clearly. And I guess with that said, I move favorable.
I'll second it.
I have a question or discussion. You made a point, Phil, and the point is that the softball field is extra, and I see there's a scoreboard that's extra as well. If you were to come back with a softball field scoreboard project at a different date, we could finish this project up with no extra money, is what we're saying, right?
Run
Take
that
the
by me again.
if we take the softball field out of here.
Yeah.
And the scoreboard out of here, we're at 323 plus 30, 50, 60. So we're at 383. And you have 343. So for 40 grand, we can finish this field up with a concession stand and a toilet.
But we can't do the softball field.
Correct. But that was never part of the original.
Yes, it was. It was part of the original project, but it was not originally spec'd out and bid on.
So therefore, it wasn't part of the original project.
If you looked at the October 2010 article, softball fields is listed in there. What happened was, as we worked through the process and tried to, adjust the numbers and work the numbers, we didn't think there was gonna be enough numbers there, so when we went out to bid, the softball field was not bid as part of the project. But it was always contemplated and presented to everyone as a full complex.
Athletic fields, so that was the softball field.
I don't recall that. I thought it was separate.
I
And
have the
B,
town meeting article here if you
I
wanna see
believe
it.
you, but I don't recall. So that's okay, because I'm old.
Well, it's what it was, yeah.
Yeah, and the other part is I agree with Chris. I thought, and we were all probably thought, that the 150 we gave you back in 11 was for the concession stand to complete the concession stand and bathroom facility.
And
brought it up to about $300,000.
And again, if you recall, at that time, we didn't even know how many toilets we were gonna be allowed to put in there. So
Right,
it
and-
would have been impossible to come up with a definite
Right.
number at that time.
So-
We came forward and looked for seed money, hoping that maybe we could save enough on this and by the way, I don't know that I need to defend myself, because I didn't save enough money on this project, you know what I'm saying?
At all.
I mean, we've got a savings on this beautiful field project of over $200,000. So this project was run very, very well, and we're applying that money to finish off the concept. So, it was always, seed money to go towards the eventual finalization of it, which is your restroom building and your softball field. It's all one complex. I mean, if you go up there, you know,
I-
like Phil says, you look to the left, it looks great, and over to the right, it looks like tenement housing.
Looks great.
Well, it's fine. That was not what I was saying. What I was saying was if we were under the wrong impression back then, I guess we never should have appropriated the $150,000. Because my understanding, and I think a lot of people's here, was it was gonna complete that concession stand. So we made an error back then, unfortunately, not you. I just have a hard time adding more money to this, and I know we need to do it, but, because of that. Because I would have not given you any money back then, or recommended any money back then, without, I thought we even had a plan, if I recall. There was a drawing. I think there was.
There was nothing because we didn't know.
All right.
I mean,
Water
again, I don't know.
Water
what
over
to say,
there,
you know,
Willie.
Well, yeah, what I wanted to offer, and maybe it's a Woodridge thing, Brian, I was under the same impression as Chris and Mark. However, I don't think there's anything adversarial here, so it's not about you not saving enough money or anything else. I think everyone really likes the project. I mean, I'm up there a lot. It's come out amazing. It looks great. The part where, you know, when I first kind of saw this before, I heard a lot of other members' remarks, you know, I was looking at it going, well, geez, you know, softball is part of it, it's right there, but maybe we should come back to that. These are discussions that even I've had with a couple of members, and that, you know, let's finish, I'm not banged up about the concession stand. I think it's on the surface kind of crazy, they cost $200,000, but hey, that's what it is, it's the lowest bid. I mean, you can't get banged up on it if that's what you're building. But adding the softball field and doing this was I kind of looked at it as kind of like a separate entity, in the sense that I think that's a good price on the surface, again, not being part of the group that studied this. But someone asked a question of, I mean, should we be looking at this, and there's people around this table and in this audience that know more than I do, should we look at that softball field and say, well, are we gonna come back for improved this or improved lights or anything? I'm not even talking about adding on to this project as much as, is there a way down the line, should we be doing this and doing it right, or should we be doing it better, or is this like a phase one, or if there's more? Because if you're gonna make this initial investment, should the softball field end up a jewel just like, or is this going to make it a jewel?
This is finalizing the project as originally contemplated. And I'm probably kicking myself because, you know, the original estimates we had on this thing were 3.5 million, which is kind of where we're at. And I succumbed to pressure to keep it to $3 million against my better judgment. And now I'm back here, you know, trying to get some money, which still, by the way, you know, 4 years later, is still below the $3.5 million, you know, to do a project that I get squeezed on unnecessarily. So this is the final piece. It doesn't make any sense to try to wait, because to get this restroom building there, they've got to take a crane across the softball field. So that's gonna force the renovations to that field. It's all hand in hand.
Well, I think even that comment, Brian, helps the people watching and makes all of our lives easier, just knowing those things. Because even when I was on the school committee, you guys did this. You did a great job. You came back. I was even off by the time. So, and then being new to this committee, there's a lot of things that I've missed. But again, looking at the surface, it seemed like a good price to me. But at the same time, I was like, geez, should the softball field, just like we moved to building, my initial reaction was, should we move to the softball field and now make that what it should be? But if we're gonna destroy half of it, you know, driving across it, I understand that too.
And that was always part of the project. That was the scope of the project.
Can we move the question, please?
We can. Motion on the floor.
Motion and second. Time to move the question.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, 200,000. By the way, when will it be done? The obvious question, when will it be done?
Well, the restroom concession building, we can go forward on because we have funds. That's expected to be in place by December. If we have success at town meeting on October 21st, we can, you know, execute the change order with the contractor, and they can work seamlessly on it, so it can be ready for the spring.
All right, Article
Thank you for
22.
your support.
Thanks, Brian.
Don't go away.
Don't go away, you're
Where you going?
still in the hot seat.
You're still there. I tried to plan this so you wouldn't
Okay.
stay, okay? Article 22 is Youth Center.
What was the vote on that last article?
Unanimous. All right, Article 22 is see if the town will vote some money to be utilized in construction and related activities for full renovation of Milford Youth Center and its facilities, including handicap accessibility, and further see how the said sum shall be raised, whether by levy, transfer available funds, et cetera.
Yeah, I just put this on the warrant. I asked town council to put it on. Basically, I kind of see this as good planning going forward. The Designer Selection Committee has gone forward. We've successfully negotiated a contract with the architect for about $250,000. With extras, it's going to take us up to about $300,000. The architect is looking to get started right away. They have a time frame of next spring. April, they've committed to giving us some bid and construction numbers. So, we're optimistic that maybe we could be looking for an article at the annual town meeting to start this project. So, keeping in theme with what this town has done in the past, when there are identifiable capital projects, I thought it might make sense to put some money aside dedicated to this project. Obviously, it's not gonna be enough to do the project, so you can't do anything without further authorization, but it will prevent, or I should say, it'll actually reduce the potential cost for borrowing on this project next year when we're ready to do it, so that's what I have.
Sir?
May I? 900,000, Brian?
I believe so, Elder, yes, I don't have that grid sheet in front of me.
You mentioned the architect's fee.
Yeah.
There was a $250,000 fee?
Right, and then there's about $50,000, which we negotiated as not to exceed. Site survey, a big question mark on this is gonna be hazardous materials. We don't know the level of asbestos in there. That's gonna have to be taken a look at. They wanted a building envelope consultant. There are signs that, some of the granite is not the way it's supposed to be, which concerns them. And then also for measured drawings. The town has no drawings of that building whatsoever. So those would be the add-on items, but they are not to exceed.
What is remaining from the feasibility study? I believe we appropriated 300,000 for the feasibility study?
The feasibility study was $50,000, of which we spent 45, and a couple of town meetings ago, the town accountant transferred that extra $5,000 back to the general fund.
We spent 300,000 for the.
Just last town meeting.
Yeah, the 300 was different, but we did.
What was the 300 for?
Right, I thought
I
the
don't-
300 was for the architect.
300 was for the architect.
I'm sorry, are you asking me with the architect's fee? I thought you were asking about the feasibility study.
Well, maybe I'm
Feasibility study
mixing.
was 50,000,
That
that was
was
done in
50.
2010.
And the
Okay,
architect
so the
was 300.
250 is coming out of the original 300,000?
Right.
We just got an appropriation at the most recent town meeting for 300,000 for the architect.
Right.
The feasibility study was done probably about
Okay.
3 years ago.
All right.
No, he was
And
talking about
there
the
was a
architect.
balance in there, but I know Zach at some point transferred that back to the general fund, so that account is closed.
I was
I have to keep it
looking at the
straight.
$300,000 number. So the 300,000, so you're not looking for 250 for the architect?
No,
You already have the architect.
Right.
So what we're looking for are plans and specifications
No.
No. What we will be looking for, let me at least finish what I'm saying, then maybe you'll understand what I'm saying.
Trying to help you.
Don't help me, thank you. What we're looking for are plans, designs that we can attach dollar amounts to for the scope of this project.
Not with this $900,000.
Not with this article.
Not with the 900, I know, but with the architect's money.
Oh, yes, okay, all right, I'm sorry, I didn't follow you.
No,
Yes, this contract with the architect would take us right to pre-bid documents.
Okay, so we will have in hand the exact same thing that we and the school building committee are hoping to come up with the schematic design portion of our
Correct.
project. I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, that the idea of putting money aside is a good idea, but I think we need to, I would be in favor of having the architect go to work, come up with the design, come up with a cost figure and the scope of the work, and then we don't deal with what we dealt with the number of lavatories that we need to have, because we didn't know. So I would suggest that we, in my mind, I would like to see us spend that $250,000, come up with the plans, come up with the schematic drawings, and then let's attach a dollar and cents amount to it, come up with the scope of the project, then we will come up with the money for the project, rather than
Put money
jumping
aside
with the
now.
9 now. So, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Brian, how did we come up with the 900,000? Is that just?
I think it was a number that the financial team worked that fit into the whole scope of things. But, you know, the idea was, you know, a third of the project, if you're looking at a roughly $3 million project, if you could do the same thing, you know, that we did with the high school parking lot, the same thing that we did with the field committee, you put $1 million down, now you're not borrowing $3 million, you're only borrowing $2 million. And I know everybody's concerned about long-term debt, so I thought that this was a nice way to try to ease those concerns and do some
Yeah.
proactive
I mean,
planning.
I like the idea of a reserve account, but I think Aldo made a very good point in saying, hey, let's get a final cost. Let's decide whether we're gonna go forward. But, you know, I wanna kinda compromise it a little bit. I mean, we have a stabilization account for capital projects. And, why not put this, set some money aside, whether it's 900 or some amount, in that stabilization account, so we do in effect have it for reserve, but then we let just the project go forward, you know, we get a cost, you know, if it gets approved, and we kinda know where we're at, and then we use that money and transfer it over. It's just a variation of what you were asking for, but it was
Yeah.
in a stabilization account that's, again, for capital projects.
Right, yeah, I know, and typically, I think, you know, the stabilization is used, I think, for potential capital projects that might exist sometime in the future. But I think every time we've had an identifiable capital project, money has been segregated, because if the project doesn't go forward, I mean, if you put $900,000 in the article and the money doesn't, and the project doesn't go forward, the money's going back to the town anyway. So there's no harm, no foul.
But it also gives a sense that the project is pre-approved in a sense, because you have this, you know, you're tagging 900,000 and setting it aside. If you have it in a general account, and there is a difference, we have two stabilization accounts. We have one that we've used for years just to accumulate monies in the event that we may need them, okay?
For long-term debt.
The long-term debt. We have a new capital account that we put in 2 years ago, or a new stabilization account just for capital projects, and we wanna use it for that. I mean, you know, that's what it's earmarked for, so.
Yeah, we put that there instead of doing what you're asking to do, like for town hall money and for, the police, the fire truck, the $1 million fire truck. We keep putting money into that every year or every town meeting we can, and we draw it out of there. It's the same thing, it's just, it's a different account, that's all.
Brian, I don't understand the downside to, 900,000 just seems like a huge amount of money. We don't have a plan. We just went through this whole thing
That's why I
on
wanna put it in
the
stabilization.
concession
That's why you
stand
wanna
and
put
all saying we were all confused. If there was a downside that we were gonna hold up the project, okay, but
Yeah.
my understanding is we gave enough money for the architect to take it through. And like Aldo said, if he comes back with a plan and says, hey, this is a 2 million, a 1 million, a 3 million, then you got something to wrap your arms around. It's hard for me to say, let's go throw 900,000 in an account Now, agreed, if you wouldn't spend it unless you have to, it'll come back, but why put it there if we don't need it right now? I mean, I would rather wait till we have something that we say, here's the plan, we all agree, we're signing up, because we know we're signing up for a youth center massive improvement. We wouldn't have spent $300,000 if we didn't believe we gotta do something. But I haven't heard any reason to take basically $1 million and allocate it. That would be a negative if we don't. I'd rather just wait, because nobody's told me it's gonna hold anything up.
It's not gonna hold anything up, but I mean, I thought I was being responsive to the concerns of this committee in terms of long-term debt. So,
You are.
next year, if this segregated account isn't here, and let's just say it's a $3 million project for the sake of argument, now all of a sudden, we're looking to try to find $3 million, chances are you're gonna have to bond it, and that's not what people wanna do. So, if you put some money aside now, that will be there. If the project goes forward, you don't have to borrow as much. If the project doesn't go forward, the money reverts back to the town. It's just a
What we're
case
saying-
of
what-
planning.
What we're saying is, we don't have a problem doing that, it's just where we put the money,
Where we put it.
that's all.
Well, then the only thing I would say, I mean, I can see that, but I guess that the only reason why I said this was because anytime there's been an identifiable capital project, it's always been a segregated account.
And-
You had the Pheno Field Light project.
You're
you had
absolutely right,
the-
and we
the
changed.
painting
and we-
here.
2 years ago, we changed.
Godfrey
the way-
Brook, there's.
2 years ago, we changed the way we did business. And so we put this account together for a number of different reasons. One, it draws interest. And two, we can allocate it as the 5-year capital plan comes up and start throwing money at all of these things in one major account, and that's all. It just made it easy.
And the only problem you have, the only distinction at town meeting is to get money out of a stabilization, you need a 2/3 vote.
Yeah, but I wouldn't see that as a problem.
Well, it could be a
That's-
problem, though. And
Well,
and I agree
but
with you,
if,
Brian.
if this
Could be a
committee.
stumbling block.
Excuse me, if this committee commits to doing the project and advocates on town meeting floor, pretty much I don't think there'll be a problem. I mean, in my opinion, we're
I
pretty
don't-
good at that. They sort of listen to us most of the time.
I don't try to assume what town meeting would do or wouldn't do. I mean, I thought that this was just, a good planning article in theme with what your board has talked about and trying to keep the long-term debt schedule manageable.
This has nothing to do with long-term debt. This is a separate account.
No, I understand that, but I'm explaining.
We agree with you.
Yeah,
We're
okay.
not disagreeing with that.
No,
Yeah.
Brian, this is why, I remember I asked specifically, is this the one big project? Because when you said, yes, this is gonna be the big project for the selectmen, we already started planning.
Correct.
Now, I said 2 to 3 million, you're saying 3, close enough. But we already started planning in the long-range capital that we gotta put it in. And candidly, shame on us if we can't get 2/3 of a town meeting vote. That would really say something to us.
Right.
But candidly, I don't think that's a problem. I think realistically, if the selectmen, the boards, and the FinCom all unite and say, we've been talking about this for a year or two.
Right.
We think this is a good idea, I think we'll get it.
And I think,
But I guess the question is to flip it on the other side, what's the difference? Why not keep it in a segregated article, so that, you just have to rely upon a majority vote for town meeting? Why not? What's the downside on that?
I guess just putting $1 million on something that I don't understand really just bothers me. I mean, it's a lot of money, and I got a lot more faith that if we go to town meeting with a good plan, we'll get 2/3. I mean, shame on us if we can't. It'll really tell us something. Putting away money, we're gonna propose putting more in this long-term capital, so that when the day comes and we need youth center, or we need a Tui toy, the big fire ladder, that's $1 million. We need money there. I don't see a problem going in front of town meeting, saying we all believe, last year, we committed, whatever it was, $300,000 to the youth center, and we were clear, this is not a $300,000 expense. This is 2 to 3 million, because there's no way we're gonna throw away 300,000 by not going forward. There's no way we're gonna condemn the youth center by letting it deteriorate. So I don't see a problem. I really don't believe there'll be a problem. It just, not having a plan, it's like the concession stand. We were all confused, and here it is a year later, and it's biting us.
Plus, I mean, I received some data last month from the youth center with their ongoing management plan. And it's the best stuff I've seen come out of that group in a long, long time. It really is. And when they come before us in November and present it, I think you'll be impressed. So I don't think there'll be an issue at all going to town meeting, getting that money out. I think doing a really good job now. So that's just what
Well-
I think this board would recommend.
All right, I mean, you know, I just put it on there. I thought it would assist in
That's fine.
management of the funds, in terms of the projects that are on the table.
Brian, you did.
Trying to reduce,
I mean,
you know,
No,
the amount of-
actually,
the
not
amount
to
of
defend what you
borrowing.
did, but I think you did before when you said, this is our big one, we took you and salted away in our plan.
Al, I
money.
didn't say that. I didn't say that. You tried to get me to say that, and what I said was, you have the same information that I do.
Okay.
So however you judge the capital projects, however I judge the capital projects, that's what they are. But I didn't say that this is the big one, because I don't have that, I don't have that power. You know what I mean? I don't have that ability.
No, but Brian,
I'm
what I
just
tried to
one
get
person.
from you is to say, in your opinion, do you see any other big thing coming at us? Right?
And I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that.
But if
So-
you came up with another, or not you, but the selectmen and the town came up with 2 or 3 more projects like this, or another big one at the same time, yeah, there may be a problem getting 2 multi-million-dollar projects on top of a $60 million school all at once. But again, I don't see that as a problem. That's a legitimate set of circumstances that we'll deal with at the time. And I think we're committed to this thing.
Bill?
You know, I don't think it's whether it's a 2/3 or whether town meeting's gonna pass it or not. It's like anything coming before us. You know, you have an architect, you come up with a cost, people look at the detail, we vote on it, it passes, we fund it. The idea of setting something aside, I think is a good one. But rather than having it in a specific account, I'd rather have it in the construction or the capital account, Brian, because I think that it's open-ended. It's not pre-approving it, and it's not out of process. When we did the paint, we knew we were gonna paint this every 4 years. That wasn't a big deal. When we did the lights at Pheno, we knew we were gonna have the lights. But, you know, this is a $3 million project, so let's get the cost, let people look at it, but while that's happening, we can set some money aside. So, I don't know what that amount is, but we should.
Need a motion?
I suggest we.
Yeah, I gotta come up with a
I'd
number.
make a motion, we amend the article to move the $1 million into the stabilization fund.
Yeah,
As
I don't think,
recommended.
I don't think the article tells, the motion will be on the floor where the money goes or where it comes from.
We gotta have some
Article
discussion.
22.
How much you wanna
Motion,
move
Mr.
into the,
Chairman?
I was gonna say, you
Has there
move,
been a
move $1
motion?
million in there.
Well, 900,000 is
you
the
can move
number.
you can move the 9.
900,000 is the number, because that's how it
I
works
mean,
out.
You can't amend the motion.
There's
It hasn't been
more
made.
to this discussion about moving this money, earmarking this money than just the youth center project in itself.
We have other monies that we're moving into that account as well.
Yeah.
Okay? 700, we're moving another 700,000.
1.6 million.
Correct.
total.
Right, it would be
Yeah.
1.6.
Correct.
Um,
I mean, that's our recommendation.
1.6 is what?
That's fine, okay,
We
let's,
would transfer or appropriate 1.6 in total to the stabilization, construction, or capital
Capital account.
project account. Right now, we had scheduled 700,000, we've moved the additional 9, there's your 1.6.
And there's already, I think there's a million in there now.
But that was part of, when we
Yeah.
talked about moving $1.7 million,
It was
is
all
we got,
part-
we have some big items.
It's-
One was the youth
Gentlemen,
center.
Yeah,
let me just summarize.
keep
It's
talking.
all part of the 5-year capital plan on how we're gonna pay for this stuff instead of putting it on the debt schedule. That's the objective. So the money will be allocated,
okay,
and it'll be there.
this report in front of me says 700,000 is planned.
No,
Are we adding 900,000 to that?
it's Article 22.
Yes, yes.
900,000 for that, and we'll get to Article 25 when we get there.
Right.
There's 2
We're not there yet,
This is-
but I'd like to
I
move,
know- I know
I'd
we're
like
not
to
there
move
there,
along. So the, Article
What your thought process is.
22.
So what's the motion?
I need a motion.
Well, I'd say we table it until we get to the.
I need a
to the other-
motion, Jerry. Want to
I'd
make a
say we
motion?
Table the article until we take up the other article. I don't wanna just,
Why?
Why?
are we gonna move the 900,000
Make
for
a
Article
motion.
25?
Yes.
So we're gonna add it to the 700 that's there?
He
Well,
says-
we can do it two different ways.
You wanna move 2.6 million?
No, no, no.
No, no,
Stop.
no, no.
Wait, let me think about this. We could do it two ways. We could ask you to pass the article over and change the 700,000 Article 25 to 1.6 million.
That's fine, as long as.
That's
we-
what I would do.
But that's up to the sponsor to decide if he wants to.
Why, what
Jerry?
Then you're
difference,
moving
what
2.6
difference?
million.
Sounds like your recommendation is pass over the article and add $900,000.
Right.
That's what I.
Right.
That's exactly
Yeah,
right.
that's exactly right.
That's what I was trying to say.
You can move it.
As long as
Yeah.
we're in agreement to do that, then
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that'll be our recommendation
Then
to
at
you,
this
Brian.
point in
If
time,
you
you
pass
add-
the article,
He's gotta pass.
we'll add the 900,000 to, I'm recommending that you pass over the article. We add the 900,000 to Article 25 and put 1.6 million in that account.
All right, well, let me consult with my committee, and then I can tell you what we're gonna do for town meeting,
Okay.
okay?
But our motion should be to recommend that, right? Mr.
That's what our motion should be. Well, no, we don't need to make a
Wait a
motion
minute.
to recommend to pass over. an
I
article.
was gonna say, why don't we give them
Yeah,
the
no, we shouldn't.
respect,
Let-
of
let
saying,
him-
let them make their decision first.
We'll have a meeting next week.
Before we pre-vote,
Yeah.
We'll hold off on it.
give him the
Can I
chance to
make a
talk to
motion
his
that we
committee.
Table, recommendations on Article 22.
I'd second
I'll,
that.
I'll entertain that.
So moved.
Second?
Okay,
All in favor?
thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Would you, we'll put you on the agenda for next Wednesday?
That's fine.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, question? Question now? Now, is that gonna be earmarked money, or is it just going in there? It's gonna be dollars, nobody's name on it. Thank you.
Aldo, here, you want my
All
sweater?
right, let's go. You guys, gentlemen,
What size is it?
ladies, gentlemen, where are we going?
Yeah, I'll take it.
You guys taking a break? You wanna take 5-minute break?
No,
I need a
I don't mind.
break. You know, I'm over 50.
I don't mind. Can we take 5 minutes on TV? We'll be back in 5. Okay, welcome back. Let's go through these. Article 1, fireworks. All in favor?
Motion,
We have one no.
Opposed?
Say, Aldo, come on, you can't change.
I was gonna vote no, just to
We need a
join
motion.
Aldo.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Mark, just a side note,
Yeah.
18,000?
next year, can we not put that in the selectmen's budget?
No, because it may change. The numbers may change.
Well, they can.
No, we have to put it up to town meeting. I understand what you're saying.
We'll just go in the
I know,
selectmen's budget.
but Aldo won't be able to vote no on it.
Yeah, that's true.
And we won't be able to have the discussion
We won't
on
be able to
why
have
we
the
do it,
discussion
that
and
people.
all that stuff.
It
All right,
makes
Article
sense.
2,
Sorry I asked.
Private Way Diego Drive.
We all are.
Motion.
Coming up.
What is it?
Next Jerry's probably gonna do it, collectively.
Refer to sponsor.
3.
Second?
That is 3, actually.
Anybody? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Article 3. Okay, we're gonna discuss Article 3.
Refer to sponsor?
No, Article 3 is not refer to
No,
sponsor.
2.
Yes, refer to sponsor. Article 3 is,
Collective bargaining.
collective bargaining agreement, making up the money, $75,345.
That's a true number, Mark?
True and honest number.
Calculated by the fire chief based on the settlement, yes.
Right.
Move favorable.
All in favor?
Sure.
Opposed? Thank you. Article 12. Article 12 is,
Appoint the town treasurer.
this, yes, Board of Selectmen to petition the general court for enactment of special legislation which would authorize the appointment of a town treasurer as opposed to elected official to an appointed official.
Move,
Well, let's have a discussion first.
yeah, but let's put it
The
in.
Board of Selectmen voted 2-1 to take this approach that they wanted to move from a elected position to appointed position.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move favorable on this for purpose of discussion.
Okay, you could do that, but we can have a discussion without it, either way.
Are we going, this is just for my edification, are we going to move towards a bifurcated team here, treasurer, collector?
You mean combined treasurer?
Yeah.
No.
Just the treasurer.
No, not now. I mean, is this where we're going in the future?
We haven't had that
Yeah,
discussion.
this doesn't relate to that. This is related specifically to the treasurer and the retirement of our.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir?
Bill, can you give us 30-second update on why the selectmen want to do this?
Yeah, I mean, the two selectmen articulated that they believed that they thought it increased the professionalism of the position and allowed them to enter into contract as opposed to having the townspeople elect that person.
The basic thinking too is that, it is that, this is a crucial position, it's a financial position, it's one that you hope you get a level of expertise, we've been fortunate. But the only requirement for the job is to get the votes, that's all.
Yeah.
So that's, I'll forget about Mike, so that was maybe the primary thinking on it, if you will. That this position, again, has been important, is important, we've been fortunate, again, the last two incumbents have had a high degree of qualifications. They just want to ensure that going forward that there could be a set of qualifications. And obviously, if this is approved, the Board of Selectmen will develop a job description and go through a hiring process and hopefully hire a competent person.
Any other discussion?
For the benefit of the discussion, my position is that it is currently appointed, it's just appointed by the electorate, and they determine who, and have done a great job in the past at placing people that are qualified in that role. I had hoped that we were going to be talking about combining, but we're not, and that hasn't been part of the discussion. But that was one of my thoughts
I
prior to
think it
this.
eventually needs to be discussed.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
timing is everything, right?
Correct.
But there's no article in front of us.
This would have been the right time.
Yeah.
We choose to take
Could
this
amend the
approach.
article.
Yeah, that's not what the Board of Selectmen's
No, 2 to 1
article is,
vote.
right?
You can't do that. No. Within the scope of the article.
Right.
Chrissy, you had
So
something?
the term is up to 5 years they can be appointed for, is that what I'm reading here? Is that what they're gonna be doing? Because
Yep.
right now the election is 3 years, so.
Well, that's right, this would be exactly what it says.
The
If
term-
it was an appointment, it would be for a term up to, board would determine whether it's 3, 4, or 5, but up to 5 years.
Okay, when would the board determine how long that these terms would be, or would it vary
When they
from time to
contract,
time?
when they advertise and when they contract.
So it could be a 1 year and then it
No, yeah, let me,
change to a 3 year?
Whatever the board develops as a contract.
Typically, those things, and I understand the nature of the question, so I'm going to try to answer it. It's typically when you have the candidate in front of you, and depending on how much of their experience, how much experience they have and how much risk you want to take, you either enter into 2-year, 3-year, or 5-year contracts. If they come from another town and been a treasurer for 15 years, then you might be taking less risk than if somebody had 2 years' experience. That's an example of when, but the answer is, it's unknown at this point until the candidate's in front of you.
Any other discussion?
Would we be better off to refer this to sponsor?
I think we should take a position on this.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I need a motion.
So move favorable, Mr. Chairman.
Second? Nobody second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Hands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All opposed? 1, 2, 3. 7 to 3. Article 15. Town will vote transfer 32,000. Oh, this is pay the IT guy from the school. Money goes in this budget, and we gotta put it into the school budget, because school budget pays. It goes in both budgets.
It's a housekeeping article.
It's a
It's only a
housekeeping item.
transfer.
I motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor? Opposed?
We're moving favorably, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah,
That's
you
15,
should
right?
mention that.
They're all either favorable or unfavorable recommendations. All Article 16. Article 16, see if town will vote to hire a consultant for the purpose of investigating the acquiring of the Milford Water Company.
I'll let Jerry talk to it because he has the scope of work and has worked out the costs with the consultant.
Okay, 100,000 is the request.
Yeah, the 100,000 is a request. I've debated exactly what the breakdown, we spoke earlier today, and I thought maybe 80,000, but my preference is to stick with 100,000. And it breaks sort of down to three segments, and we've used a consultant, Dave Russell, Russell Consulting, for a number of years with the water company, who has given us a nice proposal and can do a good analysis of a lot of aspects of the company in terms of its operations, in terms of its finances, that can be extremely helpful to us. That's the first part of it. Second part of it, it's very important that we get a consultant in terms of an appraiser who's got expertise in appraising and valuing utilities. And those two components are estimated at about 40,000 apiece. So I was thinking maybe 80, but I really want to keep the other 20 in there, in part because, again, what we're ultimately going to do is determine whether or not it's even feasible to acquire the water company. People think we're going to do that, but that's not where we are. We've got to find out whether it's even feasible. These consultants may come back and say financially it can work. They may come back and say, after looking at everything, that we can acquire it within the existing rates. And that would really be the goal, to be able to take over that water company, utilize funds that are within the existing rates right now that we wouldn't have to pay, where a private water company does, use that to pay the borrowing. So one component of it too, because evaluation is going to be crucial, is I might want to get, or recommend to the Board of Selectmen, to get an expert in the legal field of valuation of these water companies, because these do become serious legal disputes. I mean, going forward, it'll be a long process if it ever happens, many, many years, and I'll handle that through the DPU and everything else. But it might be good for the people of Milford to see an independent legal analysis of the validity of the estimates and the methodology utilized to do this, because it becomes very, very important as to exactly what method utilize to value a utility like this. My goal, frankly, it would be rate base. Rate base is about $33 million right now. So that's almost the starting point. I would anticipate the water company would say, no, the value of this is many multiples of that. So we need not only the expert, but then we perhaps get whoever the top legal expert is there to give us his or her opinion as to whether or not the approach is valid. So we've got it covered from all angles, so that town meeting, ultimately, if the Board of Selectmen decides that it's worthwhile to go to town meeting seeking an acquisition, which would take a 2/3 vote somewhere down the road, that is really backed up by all the information we could possibly get. So I'd assume go forward with the 100,000.
All right, so,
Mr. Chairman, can I just get clarification? You said three-step process?
Well, three components of the process.
Three components.
Of coming then back to the selectmen, so they've got the information.
I just want to get the notes. What's component one?
Well, component one would be the analysis by Russell Consulting Engineers as to the operations of the company, and part of the financial aspect of it. The other part of it is going to be an independent, qualified utility qualified appraiser to come up with a valuation for the company. And then a law firm with experience in utilities and utility valuation give us an opinion that can back up that valuation.
And the money you said for each is?
Well, it's at 40-40-20, we'll call it.
40-40-20?
That's how you.
Okay.
all right. So first question I have is that there was an article in the paper by the water company saying they don't want to sell.
That's fine, yeah.
So what rights do we have?
Through the 1881 charter, the water company is a creature of the legislature. People don't always understand that, but it was chartered by the legislature in 1881. And part of that charter specifically provided that if and when the town of Milford wanted to purchase the water company could sell it to the town either agreeably, or if not, 3 commissioners would be appointed to determine a price for which the town will acquire the water company. Through other legislative changes, that's now become the DPU. So the way it is now, if we can't agree on a price with the water company, including if they don't want to sell, then we can go through the process through the DPU. They'll set the price, and that'll be the price we pay for it. That's going to be a long process. That's going to be a process of 4 or 5 years with litigation surrounding it, I would expect also. I fully anticipate that. But that's why if we're going to go, the first step is to find out, is it even feasible? If we find out that we would have to double the rates in order to acquire it, people may say it's not feasible, may not even go forward. But if we can do it within the existing rates, maybe it is feasible.
Okay, so, well, chairman gets choices here. What's the downside? Let's say we go forward with this consulting, and they come back and say, it's not feasible for us to buy it because the rates don't cover it. So where does the water company go from there? They turn around and go, whoa, we can now raise the rate.
No, it doesn't work that way, and I don't view that as a downside. That's part of what we're trying to find out. We want consultants that are gonna be honest and forthcoming and say whether or not they think we can do it. And if the answer is, no, folks, you really can't afford to do this, that's fine. We need to know that. It's something maybe we should have done, we as a community should have done 100 years ago, should have done it 50 years ago. It's an analysis that needs to be done, and this is a crucial time to do it, or a good time to do it, I should say, because we've got the raw data from this last very large rate case that all the experts can utilize while it's fresh, not 3 years from now when it's out of date, but while it's fresh. So I don't view that as a downside. The result is that we can't afford it, and there's no, I suppose there's a minor downside in some future rate case. The water company, if they spend money defending their position, I suppose they can claim that in the rate case, but,
All right, so the 100 grand that we'll invest tonight, or you're requesting that we invest tonight, could in fact cost us how much in the long run?
You mean,
Well, if it goes to litigation,
well, I mean,
best case scenario goes to
I
litigation.
don't know. I mean, the goal of spending this money is to find out, is it feasible? What can the price be? What might the price be? And I don't know that. I know one of the goals is to see if there's a way we can acquire it at whatever price within the existing rates. And the reason I say that, when the way the rate structure works, and the way the rates are created through this long process we just went through, there are a lot of things in there, such as return to investors. I'm gonna make up a number here because I don't have the papers in front of me, maybe $1 million. We don't have to pay return to investors. There's federal, state income taxes. We don't have to pay federal and state income taxes. There's depreciation. We would work depreciation differently. So there's a large number, maybe in excess of $2 million annually within the rates that we as a municipality would not have to spend, that they do as a private water company. So that's when I say there's, what's that number? What's the value? Can those two be made to work where we can acquire it without potentially having to increase the rates?
Yeah, question, something you want to say, Bill?
Yeah, there's really no way to anticipate it. Again, we need to come up with answers to basic questions before we can decide to move forward. Anticipating how long it would take to acquire the water company, I don't want to position that here because none of us can answer that question. The only thing I can say is, before it got to town meeting, it would be my hope, and depending on what members of the board exist, I would hope that a small committee with a 6-month charter be established that include members of the FinCom, other members of the community, to look at this, look at that information, understand what we're trying to do, and then make a recommendation to the board and to town meeting, in the same way we do a building committee.
Actually, Jerry answered the question I was gonna ask, because with what has just gone on, this is the ideal time to do this with all the work. I mean, 4 years from now, it would have been lost. Right now is the time.
Best time to look at this kind of an yeah.
Jerry, just a quick question. If we allocate 100 grand, step one is $40,000. They come back and say,
Well, these steps are probably happening at the same time,
okay, I guess that's my question. Once we start down this road, is 100 grand gone? Or if we get to a point where the guy says, feasibility-wise, it isn't worth it?
It's possible.
Do we
It's possible.
stop?
It's possible.
I think for the purposes of this committee and this vote, they ought to look at that Jerry has and the Board of Selectmen have within our option to.
100 grand.
100 grand.
So we start down the road, 100
and-
grand.
And parallel path activities,
Okay.
Bill, was the
just so
selectmen-
you understand the expectations and.
Was
No,
the
no, that's-
selectmen vote through, unanimous on this
gentlemen.
article?
We have not voted on that. It was the clearest consensus I've ever seen by this board to pursue this avenue. I don't anticipate any issues moving forward. They were clear.
Bob?
Thank you. I understand that the Board of Selectmen have not taken a formal vote on this. Okay.
But we spoke at length about it, each individually supporting getting to this point.
Based on the fact that we are going down a road that potentially will be millions of dollars, and the fact that the water company has said publicly it's not for sale,
Of course not, yeah.
I think we're going down a road that the town should not go down at this point in time. It's my opinion, based on the information that I have.
Yeah.
100,000.
And I would tell you, this is the best time.
I understand that because you have data that's available to you, but you mean to tell me we have people in-house that can't take a look at this at the 50,000-foot level and say, hey, it's $50 million. It frightens me that we're going down the road to purchase something, to spend money, to work figures, to purchase something that could be 10 years in litigation.
There are not people, well, first of all, it's their right to.
That's speculation on my part.
Exactly. It's, first of all, it's certainly the water company's right to say, it's not for sale right now.
Which they have.
We would intend to take advantage of the statute that Jerry mentioned. And, you know, if there's litigation, there's litigation. We have potential litigation over every sidewalk we own, right? And so I guess the point is, we have a large data set available. We know how they move money. We know between what companies they move money. We know for what types of purposes they move money. What we're missing and what we don't have in-house experts to do is to assess the value of the water company. There's a tremendous amount of infrastructure underground. There's a tremendous amount of other infrastructure that's not just necessarily apparent and doesn't necessarily come out through the rate increase. But
And I think town council has said that we are satisfied with the rate increase at, what, 53%?
Satisfied with it?
Well, you said we.
Pleased is
Pleased.
64 rather than 83, yes.
Sure, as
Am I
are
satisfied?
we all.
No, I'm not satisfied.
Well, I mean,
Pleased.
obviously,
No.
DPU.
I'd have been satisfied at 12, Bob, if you wanted to know.
Satisfied at zero. But you know that's not gonna happen. When they build a plant, you know that they,
Right.
and have every right to secure funding for that plant, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, again, I think we have bigger fish to fry in this town at this point in time, and maybe the $100.
Well, the constituents that talk to me, at least the ones that have reached out to me, and the lack of accountability they're getting from the water company, with all due respect, feel very different. So there's a lot of people out there
Hold
that
up.
think.
Thank you.
Phil's next.
We went down this road some years ago. It was in the 80s. I didn't like the idea then. I like it even less now. I agree with my colleague with regards to a situation that we really, I don't feel we need to get involved with. I have a concern. I'm assuming that the numbers that were put together by the consultants that did our bidding to fight the increase were valuable numbers, and I understand that they're fresh numbers, so they'd be very helpful in this. I would have to assume that the rate increase those numbers had some bearing on the rate increase that ultimately came our way, the 53% versus the 83%, which at one point in time. My concern is very simply that, why are we doing it?
Well,
Can I just finish that, Jerry? Before, because my train gets derailed very easily. The train of thought, why are we doing it now? You know, and I'm only concerned that we're doing it because, number one, we were unhappy with what happened when they had the water problems. We're unhappy with the rate increase. We're unhappy with the $20 million plant that they put together and tried to get us to pay for. And Bobby mentioned something that concerns me about infrastructure. That which is above ground, we can see and evaluate. That which is below ground, in some instances, I would presume they're over 100-year-old. And water-moving facilities below ground. I think we're doing it for the wrong reason. I think now, all of a sudden, because we're unhappy with them, we want to take it over. I'm not even sure we can run it better than they do.
And let me explain why, at least from this person's view, why we're doing it, because that's a great question. A lot has to do with the lack of confidence that the community has in the water company.
Exactly.
And it's borne out over a number of years. But the fact of the matter is, they're a virtual monopoly. They have, at least the community members that have expressed it to me, have more faith that town departments are going to be more accountable, more responsible, and if they're not, they have the ability to remove them. They have no recourse but to write a state agency if they're unhappy. There have been, I think we've come to understand through Jerry's briefs and the last rate increase, movements of money between white companies that were less than transparent. Funds that we would have appreciated went into the replacement and repair of the water tank that was not repaired. Distribution maps that were updated that they didn't know where the pipes were underground. If you read the DEP filings, you'll see that it's not just an unhappy or people unhappy with it or a little uneasy. The fact is, in my opinion, and in the opinion of some of the comments in the brief, it was mismanagement. It was mismanagement. It was negligence, in my opinion.
Okay.
And now, that's my opinion, but when you don't know where your pipes are in the ground and you haven't maintained your systems, where was the money going?
Follow up, Mr. Chairman. May I?
If it's brief, because he's chomping at the bit over there.
I'll defer to my friend
There's
Phil.
other people who'd like to talk too, Mark.
Yeah.
I'll defer to Phil.
I had a similar thought to Bob's, that I understand that it's a unique, regulated industry, and to even go down that path, you need an outside consultant. But, I mean, do we need a feasibility study to the feasibility study? I mean, is it even in the realm of, well, let me finish. Is it even in the realm of possibilities that we could purchase the water company?
Yes.
I mean, have we looked at other recent purchases, and I'm sure there's not a lot, but, you know, to spend this $100,000, you gotta have some idea that it's even possible. And I didn't get that sense.
Yeah, again, I think it certainly is possible. One of the experts we'll be using, Dave Russell, is working with the town of Oxford in the process of they're taking over their water company. It's feasible. I mean, we've done analysis over the years, and it's come up a number of times, Aldo, when you were on the board too. Typically, when rate cases come up, when we can do a very basic analysis, and you can make a demonstration that you look at the rate base, and you look at the rates, and the things that are in the rates that we as a municipality would not have to pay, typically leave enough money to do the borrowing to acquire the water company. Now it's bigger by scale, and I think it's important. It's one thing for me to look at it and say that, but you should never rely upon that. I mean, that's not my expertise. We need experts to come in and look at it. And you know, just by further background as to reasons to do this, don't all relate to the recent problems. I mean, this is something that maybe this community should have done 70 years ago. You go back to the 19th century, every community had a water company. There's a franchise was given, and there's a reason that they've all been taken over, except a literal handful left. Maybe 5 water companies left in the Commonwealth.
That was my second question.
Of any substance, and this happens to be one of them. There's Aquarian and Hingham and Hull and a couple of others. Milford, there's maybe 5 left of any significance. Then they're very, very small ones. And there's a reason for that, because communities have taken over, because it's the kind of monopoly, as Bill referred to, that can be better handled by town government. And a good example of this is, frankly, you know, they just got a 53% rate increase, 2 years after a 33% rate increase. Over that same period of time and longer, the sewer department has had no increase at all. That ought to tell you something. Well, that's fact.
Jerry, there are extenuating circumstances as to why the sewer department hasn't raised.
We don't need to have,
sorry,
but we don't need to have the debate now.
Yeah.
Mark?
But I think that.
Thank you.
I don't think that's a good analogy.
Go ahead.
I feel really strongly about this issue as a matter of public policy. In order for the town to viably survive, it must be in control of its water supply. If in fact you lose control of your water supply, which in fact you did in 2009 by virtue of it being owned by a private water company, how can you continue to sustain life? Whether it's my grandchild that got sick during the crisis or somebody else, I felt Bill's pain. He couldn't do anything about it. All he could do was call another government authority to try to get something done. Now, I'm not gonna go on, but it's really important that we get going on this and get handled. This is the most important thing we have on our current agenda right now. Get a hold of this now. If you don't wanna believe me, read the 327-page rate decision that's online. It is unbelievable reading. You will not believe it. Mr. Moody directed me of that. I'm on page 46 now. I cannot, in the first 46 pages, I about fell off my treadmill because I was shocked of the things that are going on between a private company and what they're doing to control the board, control the decision, control the the process, the bidding process, and then, for lack of a better term, and I'm just gonna be blunt about it, pocket the money. Just just line their pockets with the money.
Careful.
Huh?
Be careful.
Carelessly. Oh, it's here. It's all
Yeah,
in this decision.
same words are there.
I don't have to, it's already there. You don't have to be careful, because, it just concerns me. And the thing that bothers me is I had an opportunity, and I really hate to admit this, when I sat on this board in my early days. John Speroni, God rest his soul, begged and pleaded with me, Jerry, will you help me work on the water company issue? And I'm like, I did like so many other people. I was too busy doing other things. That was the most important decision we had to do at that time. Now it's eclipsed many, many years. And I guess it won't come to pass, it won't come to roost on your shoulders until you actually see somebody that got sick because of what happened. Or had your daughter scared to death with a new baby because she couldn't bathe her daughter at her home. She had to come to our house because we have well water. And so they were just petrified. You can't let the water supply issue ever be suspect anymore. You have an opportunity, it just so happens, you got a decision, you got good people in place, let's move forward. I think $100,000 is very, very short money to get this issue under control and get started. And I thank you for bringing it on board.
Are we done? Need a motion?
Motion to approve the 100,000.
Second.
Recommend favorable action, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor? Eight in favor. All opposed? One, two opposed. Bobby. Okay, Article 17. That's the,
Net metering?
Net metering.
yeah, net metering.
As this board knows, we have already entered into one such agreement with Northbridge Solar. This is pretty much similar. The only distinction, we have now 2 5-year agreements because there are 2 projects with Infinity Project Company. One is to be located in Dayton, one in Norton. The 2 projects will represent an additional 5.3 million kilowatt hours of net metering credits, the same terms as the Northbridge, namely 9.5 cents with an annual escalation of 3%. There's also the make-whole clause that we talked about, which caps the cost of electricity with a maximum cost for the entire contract, so there's really no downside. First year savings estimated to be about $266,000. Net savings over 20 years projected to be $9.4 million. And the reason, as you know, the Board of Selectmen is authorized to sign contracts up to
Move
5
favorable,
years.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
How much is it?
Article 23.
It's just enter into those agreements.
23, town votes to raise appropriate, utilize to establish an information technology department for the town. Salaries and expenses, this is a $100,000 article. And I understand they want to hire 2 people.
By way of background, as you know, we have a consultant now reviewing our IT department and system. It's going to be readily apparent to everyone that we need more help. My concern is we want to get ongoing with this, so I do want to set up the department. After thinking about it, we would consider possibly hiring 2 technicians, yes. Whether we do that on a contract basis or on a salary basis, obviously our technology committee can get involved in that. My concern is we have 1 person handling the 7 schools, the town hall, and other related buildings. He can't do it, I think I just heard somebody say. So I want to establish the department, number 1, establish a budget, number 2, and get help now rather than waiting until May. Obviously, once the consultant report is done in May, then hopefully we'll be here again to talk further about staffing, budget, how we might set it up, whether it be straight personnel, a hybrid where we have personnel and then go out to contracts, or a straight company. So this, to me, is a good place to start, and I'm anxious to start now.
And this will report to the Board of Selectmen?
Correct.
Okay. And split between the town?
Yes, I've talked with
Schools,
Superintendent Tremblay a number of times on this. both in person and in our committee, as Chris knows, yes.
I mean, we've had this discussion now 3 years ago, 4 years ago, where we recommended that we do this. And we started with one person, and that was supposed to grow into a department, and it hasn't as yet. And this has got to be the time, it's bottom line.
Are we, Mr. Chairman, to the administrator, are we moving in the direction of putting an IT department together? I'm not necessarily impressed with what we've done to this point, because we
that's
were
what we're
talking
doing.
about this 10, 12 years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I understand that, but are we gonna put enough money on the table so we can hire someone that has the qualifications to make this happen?
That's May.
That is the goal, an IT department in May with an annual budget, with a competent director, or person
When I
at the
say
top.
competent, Mr. Administrator, I'm talking about someone who knows what they're doing, so that we can get something done, and we have to pay for
Well,
that.
the
So if
reason-
we want something, let's
And the
pay.
reason to establish the department is to set up an annual budget so we can pay not only a director, but also supporting staff, including technicians.
Because we've-
And again, I think now's the time to start. I'm
We've
not
saddled-
disagreeing with you.
We've saddled the people that we put in charge with having to do everything. You know,
One person
They
doing
need to
everything.
be, they'd have to be quadruplets to get it done.
No question.
Thank you.
Not disagreeing.
Yeah, I agree.
Mark,
Sir?
just, so this $100,000 basically hires two people in some way, shape, or form to add on to the current director position.
Correct.
So this essentially, when you say this is the first step towards establishing the department, you now have three people. Sounds like a department is being set up the way we've been talking about for 3 years.
It's,
But we need a budget.
it's.
Right,
it's-
but
The
I'm
budget
saying-
will come in
You
May.
didn't say that.
What I said
What's this
is,
$100,000?
That's not what the
No, no.
committee agreed to before this meeting.
we
And
talked
that's why I
about, do
wanna
we,
help you. He's got you adding people. You said you might
Oh,
even.
excuse me,
Well-
gentlemen, wait, time out.
Okay, Mark, time out.
This is
This
two
would
peop-
add two FTEs.
well, I want to qualify that. This would establish an IT department with a budget, okay? One of the things we could do is add 2 technicians. I think we need to add staff. We could also go out, instead of adding salary technicians, hire on contract.
But that's what I mean by 2 FTEs
Oh,
on
we're gonna
top
get,
of.
we want bodies. I think we need bodies. I'm convinced of that. My preference would be to get 2 bodies in here, 2 technicians, to now have 3 technicians.
Wait a minute.
Can we tweak it?
Okay, Mr.
if-
Chairman, now
if-
I'm confused.
yep.
We have a manager of IT today, no?
We have an IT director, that's it.
An IT director.
That's it.
If you add 2 people,
We have a department, no
now
question.
you just said 3 technicians.
Well, no, I'm sorry, one,
You're not gonna reduce, it's not gonna be 3 techs, it's gonna be one
Oh, no,
manager,
no.
director,
No,
2
no.
techs.
correct.
So let me just say that at this point in time, we're gonna hire X people for $100,000. We're gonna have salaries and the IT guy, the IT director. In May, we'll discuss a budget.
Absolutely.
expenses
This is
and
just a
everything else.
preliminary
Okay.
step. I mean, I
And
think
that's what
that's
needs to be
clear.
established here. We're not establishing a budget right now. We are establishing a department
Right.
with 3 FTEs.
We're seeding
Yes.
it, I
Okay,
guess.
period. And we'll discuss a budget in May with budget cycle time.
But there will be $100,000 if we hire one
Of course,
tech or
plus the
2
IT
techs.
salary.
And if we have other monies
Right.
and we need other things, then we could
discussed-
purchase
discussed
equipment.
Some other options too, which I thought were excellent, and that's the point I wanted to make.
Sure.
The committee is, you were going to enter into an arrangement with some contract people, subject matter experts, to come on site for, a decision is yours with the help of the selectmen, to come on site for 30, 60, 90 days, whatever you decide, up to the 100,000.
That is an option, again.
That is an option to
with-
kind of figure out what we actually need.
Correct.
Before we go out and hire a body, put them in place, and make that kind of commitment.
Again, we have a technology task force
Yeah.
that will meet to kind of help with these decisions,
It's not
but yes,
necessarily 2
sorry,
more
Chris.
people, it's a flexibility.
But what I'm saying to this committee is that we have the potential to do that, should we need to do that, and
What my colleague had committed you to was hiring 2 people. What I understood today.
No, I
earlier-
heard
Two FTEs.
Two FTEs.
Yeah,
Whether they
that's
be
right.
outside bodies
Thank
or
you.
inside bodies,
I
full-time
disagree.
equivalents.
Whichever way you implement it is up to you, but it's
Yes.
Two
I mean, we've
FTEs.
been saying you
I
need
like the
worker
contract idea,
bees.
'cause you could
I know
find
you do like that, and
All right,
the
all right.
gentleman next to me
Chris.
does
Yeah,
also.
I can't, being on the technology task force with Rick, I can't stress enough that this gets done. The technology in this town is way beyond where it needs to be, and it needs to be front and center in this town, because, let me tell you, things are getting more technologically advanced and more important for this town. And the longer we sit here and wait and not do something, the more expensive it's gonna be, and the more time it's gonna cost in lost manpower and hours.
We're an $85 million company without an IT department.
Crazy.
Or an HR department.
What are we waiting for?
Or an
Make
HR
a motion.
department.
Move
Need a
favorable,
motion.
Mr. Chairman.
About time.
Move-
Second, I'll second it.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
You sweet talker.
All right, before we get to the last three articles, I have something to discuss because it's time appropriate. On October 19th, which is a Saturday in 2 weeks, the Association of Town Finance Committee has its annual meeting. It's at Tri-County Regional in Franklin. I would like the new people to go, and I have an agenda here. And we need to know by whenever we need to know. It's a full day from 8:15 to 3 o'clock. They serve lunch, they serve breakfast. The workshops are very good, especially for new members.
I definitely wanna go. I missed last time.
Right, for new members. It's new to the Finance Committee, Budgeting 101. I mean, Joyce and I have gone for a while. Municipal benchmarks, it's very good, it's very good day spent. So I would like to know, or please tell Joyce, Diana, so she can fill out the paperwork and send in the stuff. And if you commit to go, we have to pay for it, so you need to go.
Are there specific workshops?
Yes, I have a list. Want me to pass it around?
Good ones.
Let me pass the list around.
Oh, thank you.
Capital plan. All right, last three articles. Article, unless you have something, you wanna wait till next week? Still?
Oh, yeah.
Article 25. Article 25 is to transfer money into the capital project stabilization account.
Don't we have to wait till?
We do have to wait. We, originally, I have 700,000 there, and if Brian comes back next week with an answer, it could be up to 1.6 million. So
Mr.
we'll
Chairman, I
table
move
that
that we table Article 25
Second.
until next week's
Thank
meeting.
you. Any, all in favor?
Yo.
Opposed? All right, Article 26 is stabilization account, the big stabilization account. We would like to recommend $1 million transfer into the stabilization account.
So move favorably, Mr. Chairman.
We need to wait on this one? I'll second.
Separate account. I'm sorry.
Second that.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? And Article 27 is $1 million to the tax rate, to offset the tax rate.
From free
Free cash.
Yeah.
So moved.
Got it.
Favorable.
Second.
Second?
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. So add Article 25 to next week.
Would it help to move Article 25? And then
We'll table it till next week after Brian
we could be done
comes
tonight.
back. Huh?
Yeah, we have our normal meeting.
We'll just table it, it's fine.
Regular way.
All right, I have any old business, any new business?
I thought this was in
Move to
place.
adjourn, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Oh, no.